We are back with episode 29 of the Auld Triangle podcast. And as always, I'm joined by Andy Stevenson and Caoilte the Barras. We're going to take you through all the news in Irish mixed martial arts. Today, we have a fantastic interview with Alexander O'Sullivan ahead of his Cage Warriors debut against Tom Wright, taking place later on this month in the Three Arena. We also have Niall Sunderland, promoter of Premier FC, who are putting on shows down in the Republic and have their show coming up just around the corner on April 16th down in Cork as well. So it was great to catch up with the two lads, and you can catch those interviews a little bit later on. First of all, we're going to take you through some of the reactions to some of the pro fights. We have Kiefer Crosbie got a great win. Leah McCourt was in action against Cat Zingano. John Mitchell, Nadine Abbott-Bissett. We're going to talk through all of that. We'll talk about Cage Conflict 9 a little bit later on. We have lots and lots to unpack. Fellas, we're back to our normal setting. We're not doing it in person. It was great to catch up with you. I guess the dust has settled on that last episode as well. Will Fleury also picked up a good win that we'll talk about as well at PFL. And yeah, here we are. We're back. How are you keeping?
You made it home to Canada alive, Ian.
That's it. Like I said on the UFC preview show this week, there wasn't a chicken fillet roll or a pint of Guinness safe in Ireland there for the last 2 weeks in March, but I'm back in Canada now again. So we're hitting springtime over here. It was funny when I was traveling over to Ireland, I was like, no, it'd be grand to get a break from the snow. If like we're right coming out of winter here in Canada, and as I was flying over Ireland, I was looking out the window the Friday I flew in, and it was the time of the snow in Ireland. I was like, Jesus, this is some break from the snow. I'm after bringing it with me. But nonetheless, we will go and shall move on talking. Let's start with Will Fleury. Fantastic win in PFL against Krzysztof Jotko. I had the pleasure of speaking with Will. I'm sure that interview is out. You can check that out on the SevereMMA YouTube channel. He was very happy with the win, but did admit that it wasn't his best performance. But Andy, like I said to him, it's good, not to really focus too much on the negative side of things. I think it's important to realize that, he can compete at the highest level when he didn't have the best performance of his career. So he's winning fights, not performing to his optimum best, but he still went out there and got the job done. A really, really close fight. He won a split decision, razor tight decision. But I was glad to see his hand get raised. How did you break down the fight?
Yeah, look, it was a grueling kind of I want to say a war of attrition, but really in the grappling areas, like it was nip and tuck. Hard to separate the two of them. I think that the Will winning was probably the right call, but I could also, you could understand if you're Krzysztof Jotko, kind of calling for it, that I won that fight. But I think the judges got it right. And as you said, I think it's a really important win in Will's career. Transitioning up to a higher weight class, he looked absolutely huge and shredded. He looked incredibly strong. Clearly been doing a lot of strength and conditioning in there. But I'd say he's probably still transitioning, in the sense that he's got the additional size, the additional weight, the additional strength now, but maybe learning to fight at 205. What kind of stood out to me was, and I haven't had a chance to listen to your interview with him, so I'd be interested to hear what he said around this, was that I remember watching and I know Sean talked about this on the SevereMMA podcast as well, the Tariq Sullivan fight, and he was pumping his jab. He was kind of fighting behind his jab the entire time, and really it was a stand-up fight. And it seemed in this one he was really just focusing on getting the takedown, using his strength and his size to dominate his opponent. And it just looked a bit different. It just looked a bit different to some of his previous fights. But as you said, like, he got the win. All that really matters is winning in this. I'd say he probably was looking for that finish. I know he's sitting, I think, fifth at the moment, really tied third, but fifth at the moment in the standings is Ty Flores, Robert Wilkinson, and Will on 3 points. And that's got to be a factor when you're fighting as well, as you're looking for that finish here. When it's no longer about just wins and losses, it's about finishes too. That'll play into your mind. So, yeah, look, if that's Will on a bad day, then I think that's a very positive sign, if you know what I mean. So
100%. Yeah. Like, just to kind of talk about, you did mention on the interview with myself, he was trying to set up the big right hand or big left hand or overhand shot. And he came close with it at the start of the fight. And he said he kind of maybe distracted him or took him away from his game plan a little bit when it was quite clear and that Krzysztof Jotko wanted to take the fight down Caoilte. And he was wary of Will's power on the feet and the strength as well. And Will felt that as well. He was saying that to me as well. But the ultimate thing was Jotko did manage to get the fight down, but landed very little damage. And it was those small shots that Will were landing would seemingly probably got him over the line on the judges' scorecards.
Yeah, and I think that's where people may have, maybe the lack of understanding of the criteria. I know it was a very close fight. It could have gone either way, split decision at the end of the day. But I think that's where people are I've seen calls of robbery. I've spoken to people in Polish media, and they think that Will shouldn't have won. They thought Jotko won, but then when you look at it back and you see how the fight went, I would have leaned towards Will now personally as well. I think it was close, but he definitely got the right one. Jotko wasn't doing much when he got to the ground. Will was doing those shots, as you said there yourself. I was actually surprised at Jotko's kind of approach to the fight. I was expecting to be a little different. Thought he'd be trying to pick his shots and stay on the outside a little bit more. But look, either way, fantastic for Will. Biggest win of his career. All that matters is winning, as Andy said, in these tournaments. And I watched the interview he did directly afterwards, the reaction where he admitted where he wasn't happy with the performance. Which is a great. It's funny. It's something it's a great complaint to have. Is like, oh yeah, just beat a lad who was exceptional. If I think he may have been ranked in the UFC at one point. You get that win, but you're still not happy. It shows the high standards that he sets himself, and potentially what we like. If that's only, let's say, 40% of the Will Fleury that we saw, I'm excited to see what Will Fleury shows up next time.
Absolutely, as am I. Next time, he did mention Atlanta on possibly July 8th. Nothing set in stone yet, so we'll try to get some more confirmation. No opponents have been discussed yet, but it was great to see Will get back into the win column.
That's only a few months away as well.
Yeah, but that's it. You're fighting. That's PFL, man. You're fighting every 8 weeks. It's a tough tournament. So it is. So he came out of it injury free, which is great, and he's fresh. He's back in the gym already, and couldn't have worked out any perfectly for him. Got the win. Obviously, look at the finish is the finish. He can go maybe and look for that the next time. But I think, getting a win against a guy as tough as Krzysztof Jotko, also who is a fighter that came in on short notice as well. So great stuff by Will. And we should move on. An absolute barn burner over at Rise Fighting Championships, where Kiefer Crosbie beat Cowboy Alex Oliveira in an absolutely mental fight, Caoilte. It was over and back, absolutely crazy to watch, exciting. It was just, Kiefer had mentioned to us on the last episode of the Auld Triangle, he could be standing back and be the sniper or be a front line with the machine gun. And I think the sniper was out for a little bit at the start of the fight, but definitely the machine gun was there for the finish.
Dead right. It was an absolute war. That round is a contender for a round of the year. It was just chaos, and thought Kiefer did exceptional to take some of those strikes, pick his shots well, and get into a war with a man who's known to love getting into these mad fights, such as Cowboy Oliveira. So what a win. I think a big part of that was I'm glad we all found a stream. I think I've never seen so many people ask, do we have a stream?
It was crazy to try and find one, but we did. I got to catch it live. I think it was on Cian Cowley's page. No, it was actually on Owen Chero's Instagram, but there was some mad messages.
That was the pirate version of Cian Cowley's stream, was it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But Andy, you spoke to Kiefer right after the fight. You can catch that interview on SevereMMA.com as well on the YouTube channel. Kiefer spoke quite well. He pleaded his case. He wants the UFC next. What are some of your takeaways, Andy, from that interview and the fight itself?
Yeah, but from the fight itself, it was kind of everything I was hoping for and expecting. I know he spoke about being a sniper and all that, but we've seen Kiefer in wars in his career, and this was another one. So I thought it was, if you're looking to put your best foot forward to go out there and take out a 22-fight UFC veteran in one round and look good doing so, and albeit Cowboy had some, he cut Kiefer open and he had some success early, but it wasn't like I would say Kiefer was probably winning the fight the entire time, even though they were, clashing in exchanges. What stood out to me, Kiefer wants the UFC, and he believes he's earned it. And it's kind of hard to argue, historically when looking at these things, is you either need to be, there's different ways you can go about it. Like, you can be someone who goes through the Cage Warriors route and gets to a title and goes that way. Or it was always that carrot that was dangled for fighters, was be the UFC veteran. And he was telling me that he's been in contact previously with the matchmakers. He's obviously represented by Paradigm Sports, who have a good relationship and represent Conor McGregor. He's close in proximity to Conor. Lee isn't the Ultimate Fighter right now. He's kind of been told after he left Bellator, parted ways with Bellator, go and get a couple of wins and beat a notable UFC, ex-UFC fighter. And he's done both those things. So in his mind, he's ticked off the boxes that he needs to, and now is the time for the UFC. And I'd like to see him in there, especially after that performance. I think if he had gone in there and it was kind of maybe a boring 3 rounds and eked out a decision, you might say, oh, okay, maybe one more or maybe a few more. But I think that was the biggest win of his career by a landslide. I think it's still impressive. I saw a lot of people online. I know, again, the lads talked about this on the SevereMMA podcast, or it might have been yourself, Ian, with Sean. And I don't think you can diminish this win. A lot of people were picking against Kiefer in this. I don't think you can have it both ways. You can't look, a lot of people that I was speaking to were thinking, geez, this is a fucking tough fight. And if he wins, great, but it's a really tough fight, albeit Cowboy's not in the UFC anymore. But he had 2 back-to-back finishes before this, and you can't go in. If there's talk of this is a tough fight for Kiefer beforehand, you can't just switch the narrative after and say, oh, well, he's washed. I think this is a win that stands to him. It's a statement win, and he's every right to call. It's his right to call for the UFC next.
It absolutely is. Look, when you're looking at like Kiefer, he just ticks off all the boxes for me. He's got the personality, he's got the following, he's got the fight style. It seems to me like it's everything that the UFC should be looking for in a fighter, bringing them in. And it does confuse me a little bit of the online negativity. Like, I think us as Irish media members and us as fans of Irish MMA should be looking for as many fighters as possible to be fighting at the highest level. We don't have too many Irish fighters in the UFC right now. We have Irish fighters spread across Bellator and also in the PFL, and I think it's fantastic and it's necessary for the growth of the sport in the country as well. So, like, you cannot deny there's like, you go out there and you finish a veteran and you do it in exciting fashion. I mean, I hope he gets the shot next. I think he deserves it. I think he's paid his dues, and it'll be interesting to see what happens and if he gets that call as well, So credit to Kiefer, great win, and we'll see. I'm excited to see what's next for him. We'll move on, lads, to Leah McCourt, who fought Cat Zingano in Bellator. Obviously, a really, really close fight here, Andy, like razor close. Similar enough, look at Will and Yako was close. Leah and Cat was close as well. As fight started, Leah landed 2 great shots on the feet, kind of set the tone for the rest of the fight, because Cat ate those 2 shots and it didn't seem she was too interested in engaging in any stand-up. Kind of was utilizing her grappling, pressing Leah up against the cage, trying to get her down. Leah caught her in a couple of good exchanges in the grappling as well. She had full mounted on a couple of occasions. I think, this bout was going to go anyway for me until the last minute of the 3rd round. I think you could argue it was 1 apiece going into the 3rd round. I thought Leah was getting better at the exchanges, and it was just, it was that knee that landed on Leah that caused the cut that may have just swung it. When you have a round that's close. Now, you can't solely be basing it off, with MMA based off damage. And I thought Sean did kind of explain that kind of way of judging very well when we talked about it on the podcast this week. But for me, I think that was what swung the fight. But Leah's performance was excellent in defeat here. I think there's many positives that you can take from it. And, I think people forget that she is only 10 fights into her career so far. So we've got to allow her that time to develop, and especially when she's taken out on people at the top of the featherweight division too in Bellator. But overall, I assume, and we had been talking as well, Andy, I know that you were just as impressed as what I was with her and her performance. And look, she was unlucky not to get the win.
Yeah, I think undoubtedly it was the best performance of her career. I think she has every right to feel like she won that fight. I think it was, it was on a like, what's it, a razor edge, whatever the
A
terminology
knife
I'm
edge. A
searching for
knife
here,
edge.
but I'm
Yeah,
struggling
yeah.
to find. It was very, very close, and I think I'm looking at the scorecards here, and they're kind of all over the place in the sense that, one judge gave rounds 1 to McCourt, 2 and 3 to Zingano. The next judge gave rounds 1 and 2 to Zingano, 3 to McCourt, and the next judge gave all 3 rounds to Zingano. I thought that was an odd one. I scored the fight 1 and 3 for Leah. But it's not a fight that I'd be saying this is a robbery. I think that of just an incredibly close fight. Thinking back to it, I thought the first round was the easiest, or at the time I thought was the easiest for me to score, and that was for Leah. I was surprised to see 2 judges had given it to Zingano. I thought the second round was Zingano's, and then the third round was really just so difficult. And as you said, like that knee probably did swing it in Zingano's favor for those who scored it for her. I thought that maybe where it kind of slipped away from Leah on a round by round basis was that she got to really dominant positions, and it looked like she was winning the round, and it seemed to be the story of the fight was where she would get to say a mount or she'd be winning the round, and then all of a sudden Cat would just find a way to sweep her or to get to top position, and then go, start putting in her own work to then claw back the round and in some cases win it. I don't think it's a defeat that should it's not something that will set Leah back. I think there's a lot of positives to be taken from this. Like, she went out there and she was probably, I don't remember what the betting lines were. I imagine she was a heavy underdog here. And I thought she put on a brilliant performance. And I thought it was a performance that showed that she belonged at the top of that division. We spoke many times about the gulf in class, or in experience rather, and skill level between the top and the bottom of the Bellator women's 145-pound division. And I thought that performance showed that Leah deserves to be up there at the top, and that there will be fights. There'll be plenty more fights for her. She's only 10 fights in, or I can't remember how many fights into her career. Yeah. There's lots of fights there. It's a pity we didn't see her get the win, because there was a fucking brilliant fight set up there with Chris Cyborg in Dublin. But maybe this will stand to, maybe it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Do you know what? I'm kind of thinking, let's get Chris Cyborg out of the equation here. It's uncertain whether she's going to be back. So, like, even in that defeat, still may set up a title shot. Why wouldn't you do, if Cyborg is out of the question, you could do Sinead versus. You could do, you could do Sinead versus
Leah gets winner.
Yeah, and then get Leah a fight on the Dublin card as well, and see if she gets the win
too.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. What would you like to see, Caoilte? Like, I think.
You got Sarah McCann's after joining the Bellator ranks now as well. She's.
I don't mind her. Come on, we've got 2 Irish women here now.
Yeah, but in turn, I guess next, if you take Cyborg out of the equation, I think one win could line it up for Leah. What's Leslie Smith at nowadays? I think that would be they don't think they've fought each other yet, so I think Leah versus Leslie next would be a great one, and then for Sinead, she could literally walk into a title shot next. Let's be real.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be interesting to see what happens. I guess it'll all be down to what Cyborg wants to do, whether Bellator will want to bring her back over. They could do Cyborg and Cat there. But, I mean, I think it's a division where a lot of these women have fought each other before. And, are we going to go around that merry-go-round again and watching the same fights? Or I think if you take Cyborg out of that division, I think it adds like a kind of a fresh new air of excitement, where you could see new fights and we could develop a new champion there. But it'd be interesting.
I mean, if you're Bellator, you're not trying to get rid of Cyborg. Like, she's still.
But what's she going? Like, she's going to go in there and beat Cat Zingano, right? Let's be real. And she's beaten everybody else. So, I mean, she's only one fight, if any, left on her deal. I'm not sure. Maybe she's a free agent right now. I'm not too sure. She hasn't clarified.
I think she's a free agent right now. And yeah.
So you have as good as opportunity as anything now to freshen up that division. You're talking about Ireland being the hub for Bellator right now. They're getting the biggest crowds. They're generating the biggest interest out of shows in Ireland. So if I'm Bellator as a promotion, I'm looking to try and create that avenue to develop an Irish champion, whether it be Leah or whether it be Sinead. I think it makes sense for the promotion rather than, obviously Sinead versus Cyborg. That's a fight that Sinead wants again. I'd be excited to see that too. But that's just how I feel about the situation, obviously, but that, I don't know. At the same time, if Cyborg did stay, this creates that world title shot. I think that's what we need to see in September, one way or another, from Bellator. But I'm just thinking about maybe freshening up. That there could be dangling that Kayla Harrison fight in front of Cyborg as well. She may move over there and fight that. So, I mean, if it works for Cyborg to do that, it would be beneficial, I think, overall, and give a bit of a rejuvenation to the featherweight division in Bellator, women's featherweight division.
Just to jump back to Leah, so the last two fights, like I've been very impressed in her last two fights. I know people were complaining about the Dana Silva one being a bit boring, but I thought she looked really good, especially in that first round. What you make? She's moved over to Next Gen at Liverpool. Do you think that's been the right move for her, Ian?
Oh yeah, I think so. I think spreading yourself out is good for everybody. What I've seen with Leah is a lot more patience and comfortableness on the feet. Now, I don't think she got to show it as much as she would have liked because, like I said, the first exchange on the fight, Leah cracks Cat with two beautiful straight right hands that Cat did not like at all. She immediately closed the distance there. I think what also surprised Cat Zingano in that fight was how strong Leah was in the clinch. So Cat Zingano had to dig fucking deep to get that win. And I feel, a couple of small errors and mistakes and a bit of unluckiness with getting the cut at the end. I mean, when you're a judge, right, and you're looking at a close round, you're looking for one of these fighters to give you an excuse to give you the round. And I think that knee in the cut gave the judges the excuse to score round 3 for Leah. But Leah was probably teetering on winning that round before that happened. And it's just you're looking for big moments in rounds. And I think that was a big moment. And, then Leah got her down and then Cat kind of reversed into top position at the end of the round. I mean, she was massively unlucky, but there's many positives to take from that fight from Leah. I'm very excited. We have to be realistic when we're talking about Leah McCourt too, lads. It's very, very young in her career, and having to develop at a pretty high level as well is not the easiest thing to do. But you'd be foolish if you were saying that she's not jumping up in levels every time that we're seeing her perform here. So I'm excited. Look, she's going to learn from that loss again. The move over to Next Gen, like you said, Andy, looks to have been a good move. Getting some work in with Molly and the crew over there. They have a top class setup over there. And I know Leo's been a person who's not been afraid to move around from gym to gym. And I definitely think that's a great thing to develop yourself as a fighter overall. But we should move on. If anyone else says, are we good? Shall we move on? We talk John Mitchell picked up a great win over in the what was the name of the promotion that he was fighting on? Matrix Fight Night. That's what it was. And he picked up an excellent win, Caoilte, against Shurkan Shakar. Good, kind of patient, dominant striking display. Didn't exert himself too much. Landed a monster right hand. Loved his jab in the fight. His jab was beautiful, and it's his jab that set up that right hand that got the finish. And it was a pitch perfect performance from John Mitchell. Moves to 6-1 now, ahead of his PFL debut.
Yeah, that was that fight, a bit of golf in class, I think. John clearly levels above. So, look, we'll get to see a real test now in his PFL debut, but taking nothing away from that performance, he showcased his striking once again. That, as you said there, he used that jab really well, kept his opponent at bay, and then just picked him off with ease. The commentary actually at one point said that he was a wrestling champion in Ireland, and they tried to say it to him afterwards on the mic, and he was like, I didn't even know what's the thing.
He hadn't a clue, yeah. He said, I'll take it if you're going to give it to me.
But look, it's another, adds to the record. It makes him 6-1 now. I think it is ahead of PFL, a bit of momentum for him going into that tournament where he could potentially walk away with a lot of money if he goes all the way. But exciting times ahead for him, and just a good performance to build him up a bit.
100%. And we'll move on to Nadine Ababissid and Combatche Global here. A fight that there's been massive amount of confusion around, to be fair. Nadine, I had talked to her during the week because we tuned in to try and watch her fight. And we were unable to do so because Combatcha said that she was supposed to be, she had been told and shared the link out. She was told 1 hour before her fight that she wasn't going to be shown on the broadcast. It ended up being broadcasted last night. I missed it again. She went out and got a first round armbar win. But I think, it's great to see her back in the win column. I think we have to focus on that, number one. We'll report back on her fight when we get to see it on the next episode of the Auld Triangle. But look at Nadine, a top prospect and amateur. We'll talk about her getting back into the win column and the importance of getting her first professional win as well first. It's great to see.
Absolutely, yeah. This is an IMMAF world champion who was highly touted coming into her pro career. Obviously she faltered, I guess for lack of a better word, in her pro debut. She, went through some adversity, didn't pick up a win, got the loss. And now she's coming back, for when you're someone who's had so much success. And I know she had a couple of losses, I think, at amateur too. I think but it was maybe to one fighter, if I recall correctly.
Yeah. Magdalena.
Yeah. But that you're coming into your pro debut as a world champion. You're probably not expecting to lose. So to come back here now, to rebuild, to go back at it again and get your first win, probably I'd say a sigh of relief, in addition to the elation and happiness of getting the win. And yeah, it's great. It's great to hear that she got the win. I haven't seen it myself either. Delighted to hear it. I think that it's crazy. Look, we talked about it last time. I'm not going to labor the point too much, but it's just crazy that it wasn't shown live. She is a woman who can be marketed very, very easily. And even if it's Combatcha want to build their own stars, their local talent, off the back of Irish, do that, sure, try it. But at least show it live. So yeah, just crazy to me.
What you're doing, sorry to interrupt you, Andy, but what you're doing with Nadine is you're getting her and breaking that illusion that she is. And she shared a link out where maybe a couple of people paid for that link and she wasn't on it then. It's just so unprofessional as a promotion, and it's
not fair to her, though,
it's unfair on Nadine as well. And then look, they did show it as a tape delay fight under broadcast last night as well, which kind of went in under the radar. And I think it's just a shame for Nadine, and I think Combatcha do need to do better when it comes to that, and communicate and promote their Irish fighters a little bit better and promote their fighters in general.
It's just like, what bothers me most about it is like they'll go online and be like, "Oh, we're the best, we've the most viewership ever," and fucking stats just come out of their arse and
talking shite, to be honest.
Bullshit. Like,
it's just anyway, we will move on. Not to turn into
angry at this. And
it is frustrating.
Grinding my gears.
Yeah,
fair play to Nadine, a great win. Congratulations. And onwards and upwards for Nadine Abbott-Bissett. Hopefully we get to see the next ones. We can fucking make a huge deal out of it. We can all watch it live and celebrate her successes moving forward.
100%. Nadine picking up the first round armbar win against Harley Reyes. Credit to her. We'll move on, Caoilte. Bit of action over my side of the pond, the BFL battlefield. Dario Sinagoga lost. Makinde Ademe. Fight never happened. Give us a kind of quick roundup there before we move over to our interview with Alexander O'Sullivan.
Darius Sinagoga, I think is that his first loss now? Drops his first loss of his professional career.
Welterweight,
went up to welterweight, much needed because he just couldn't make weight at lightweight. It was becoming a bit of a joke, to be honest. But look, went up to welterweight and faked a glove touch, and it didn't exactly go well for him. Faked glove touch, went for a takedown if I remember correctly, and then he just got. I can't remember his opponent's name, excuse me, but opponent
Ashmash Reggie, I believe.
There we go. Land a few strikes. Ian, I remember you were saying that you believe that it was completely fair stoppage because that uppercut was there for the take, and if the referee didn't step in, I completely agree. Looking back on it, great stoppage. I don't think Sinagoga was too pleased about it, but personally, I think perfectly fine. It's almost like, I guess I saw some people say it's a little bit of karma for trying to fake the glove touch, but sure, look. On to the next one for him. I'd imagine it'll be at welterweight again. Unfortunately for Makinde Adeyemi, he made weight and everything, but unfortunately the fight was pulled from the commission. He was brought straight into medicals afterwards, and the fight never went ahead. So he didn't get to make the walk on the night. So it was a bit of a bad night for the Irish, really, over in Canada. So I think McKinley is actually back in Ireland now, and he's doing a bit of training with Solomon Simon. So it'd be interesting to see if he gets a fight over here while he's around.
Absolutely. Well, that kind of wraps us up from like kind of professional perspective. Obviously, we're going to talk about a couple of the pro fights on Cage Conflict 9, but we will go to Alexander O'Sullivan, head coach and fighter out of CMAC Gym, who will make his Cage Warriors debut, currently 1-0 as a professional fighter. And he will be taking on Tom Wright at Cage Warriors Dublin in just a couple of weeks. And we're going to send it over to Andy to get us kicking off for that interview. Or Caoilte, sorry. We're going to send you over to Caoilte to get you.
We won't send it over to that Andy prick. Like Caoilte instead.
Andy's on deck for the next interview. So apologies.
Andy
for
sounds
getting
so
that
sexy
up.
in this interview.
What?
Andy sounds so sexy in this interview.
Over to Caoilte for the interview.
And now we're joined by Alexander O'Sullivan, who's competing on Cage Warriors 153 in Dublin later this month. Alexander, how are you today?
Great, yeah, absolutely perfect. Yeah, Sunday's kind of my rest day, but it's I like to keep it active, so I was out there with the girlfriend and the dog there in St. Catherine's Park earlier today, and then I just did some recovery and heat acclimation there in preparation for my weight cut just there. So I'm just back from the gym there and looking forward to this chat here at the moment.
Lovely. And look, we'll get straight into it with Cage Warriors. You've signed, I guess, a big deal to compete in one of the largest promotions in Europe. How did it come about exactly?
So when I was in Serbia, so like kind of from the start, I ended up signing with Showtime management there. Over a year ago now, I'd say, about a year ago. I signed when I finished college in May last year, so just coming up on a year. And they've been looking after me. It's been a little bit slow, but that was the way it needed to be. I needed to get that amateur or pro debut out of the way on Cage Conflict, and then they've just been preparing me for some kind of offer like this. And while we were in Serbia, while I was coaching on the Ireland team in Serbia, I got the Cage Warriors offer off my manager Damien, and it was a 5-fight contract. We were thinking about over 18 months. We were thinking about that kind of is that what we want? And then we decided absolutely that's what we wanted, And the first card that I'm going to fight on being Dublin in the Tree Arena is just beautiful. It's like destiny, It's like all those amateur fights. I chose a great time to go pro because Cage Warriors is having an event in the Tree Arena. It's absolutely top class, and I'm just hoping to seize the opportunity and take advantage of this platform that I've been given. Kind of not just out of the blue, like I'm working towards it, but like I say, I was just in Serbia with the Ireland team and got this offer then, and I was like, yeah, let's do it.
Like throughout all your amateur career and competing in small shows, competing in arenas and the IMMAF championships, was competing in the Tree Arena, was that something that was like a dream come true for you when it comes around like this?
Pretty much, to be honest, yeah. Like I've been to the Tree Arena to watch Bellator cards. I've been to the Tree Arena to watch the UFC. And I don't know. I don't think that Cage Warriors has done another show in the Tree Arena that I'm aware of. I can't remember anyway. I know they've done like in Cork. They've done I think the basketball arena, and they've done the SSA up in Belfast. But I don't remember a Tree Arena card. So that wasn't something that I was like. That wasn't something that I predicted happening, if you know that way. So when it just happened, I was like, absolutely, this is exactly what I want, So obviously, I will have to manage the occasion, manage the nerves. It's a big step up in platform, but that's something that I think this will be my 32nd MMA fight. So I think this is exactly why I did all that hard work and all that preparation, so that I step into this matchup and perform to the level that I do in training, rather than letting the occasion bring that performance down, which of course does happen. So I'm looking to basically showcase my true level, even under the bright lights of, say, the Tree Arena for my second pro fight.
And to go back to your pro debut there just a second, you've had what was the decision making there in terms of the timing of turning pro and I guess competing on Cage Conflict as well? What were kind of the decisions around that, especially because I know you were balancing coaching and college at the time as well?
So basically, I wanted to finish my college degree before I went pro, because just with coaching as well, it was just too much. You need to commit everything to pro. You need to be able to do proper camps. So I can't be, I felt like I couldn't be studying and doing my dissertation and stuff and that at the same time. So I really wanted to get that out of the way, get that finished, and I did. I'm really happy with it. I enjoy history, what I was studying in Trinity, and I probably will end up going back to academia at some stage. But right now, at 24, I can't go back and do professional MMA for Cage Warriors when I'm 35, but I can do that now. So as soon as I finished that degree, it was time to go. I don't feel too old. I don't feel too young. I just feel at the right time. I feel 24. I'm a man, because especially I started competing when I was 16 against adults and that kind of thing, and I always felt some of my losses, especially some of my earlier losses, were just due to me being a bit small, a bit not really cutting any weight and that kind of thing. Like fighting at 70, I fought as heavy as day before 74 against Chris Duncan in Scotland, and he's in the UFC now as well. So that's another. That's great to see. I want to be able to compete at that level. So that's all I want to get to. But now I'm at Bantam where I belong, and I had that first profile, like we were saying, on Cage Conflict to just really put out the feelers for that pro, what it's like to be pro, proper professional camp, professional weight cut. To be honest, I finished in my college in early May. I went away with my girlfriend to Italy for 10 days, and then I was straight into camp from that. So I had been planning to debut as early as July, August, and it just didn't happen. Shows didn't get matchups, and I didn't get matchups. I didn't get the opportunity, and then Cage Conflict. I've been working with Cage Conflict now for a few years because we have all the CMAC lads fighting on it. Keith was the double champ of the show, and we've got Jordan fighting. Jordan's been fighting on it a few times. We've got a good few of the lads fighting it. So I already had good connections with them, and I knew they put on a good show and they put on good pro fights. So I was like, yeah, this could be the move. They got me an opponent. He ended up pulling out 2 weeks out, and I got a tougher opponent, which was exactly what I wanted, to be honest, because I don't really want to hang around. I'm not here to build myself at pro, if you know that way. I feel like I've built myself at amateur so that I can take a shot at a pro. So Matteo, who I ended up fighting, was 1-0 as a pro, good, and he's a good little scrapper. He was a good opponent, and I feel like I did the job, got it done in about a minute and a half, and then I was considering fighting, soon enough after that, but then I had some things to sort out with the gym, with myself, and just the way it fell. Then I ended up going to Serbia with the Ireland team and getting that Cage Warriors for April. Just perfect, just the way it was. Everything's kind of worked out pretty perfectly in my opinion. Despite not really having a proper plan set out, it's just gone, pretty ideally, in my opinion.
Alexander, I'm curious to get your opinion on your amateur career. You had a bunch of amateur fights. I think the most anyone has ever had in Ireland. What was your mindset around having that amount of fights? Was that the plan when you originally kind of started off in amateur mixed martial arts? Did you want to kind of garner that experience with that many amount of fights, or was it halfway through and you just wanted to wait until what you said you feel ready and you felt that was the right time to turn professional?
So there was a bit of there's a few things involved. Like I say, I actually started fighting amateur MMA when I was 16. So I think by the time I was still 17, just going 18, I was 10-1 in amateur MMA. So by that time, there was a few offers coming in for kind of pros, turning pro. I was a big deal, at the time. There's a lot of hype because I was on such a big win streak. And then the opportunity came around just kind of out of nowhere, because when I started, the IMMAFs didn't exist, to go to the IMMAFs in 2016. So I was still in 6th year at the time and stuff. So I just was like, oh, this is a deadly opportunity to fight internationally, to fight. It was in Prague. So I went to that, and I was very confident, in my abilities, even though I was only just gone 18. I felt, I was considering those pro offers. I was thinking, this could be soon, maybe when I'm 19 or whatever, when I finish school. But then I went to the IMMAFs, and I ended up winning bronze in that Prague event. But the guy that beat me from Bulgaria, he just out wrestled me, and I just felt like I couldn't get going at all. He just kept taking me down, and once I was on the ground, I couldn't get back up. So I think I was 13-2 after that event, and I was like, okay, I need to work on my wrestling, I need to work on my grappling before I go pro. I don't want that to happen when I go pro. And like I say again, I was feeling like I was just gone 18. This guy Ferdion from Bulgaria, he was an older man, and I felt that could be an issue. So I was like, okay, hold on, don't rush it. We won't rush it. So I ended up having a good few more fights. My next fight after that was against Lee Hammond, and he finished me. So that's my that was my first finish loss. I have 2 finish losses: Lee Hammond and Chris Duncan. They're the only times I've been finished, and then I had like 2 back-to-back losses to consider, and both of them were very grappling orientated. So I just, because I originally started boxing, I have 35 boxing fights, and I'm 6-0 in K1. So it would kind of make sense for me to really just look at improving my grappling and also get stronger. I felt, obviously I was competing at same day 70 at this time and 74 and that kind of thing. So I was undersized anyway. But yeah, there was just a few kinks for me to work out, and then I ended up in college and I was really enjoying it. And then the coaching was taken over. I was really getting big into it. Full-time head coach of CMAC then for the last nearly 3 years now. So I was, everything just coalesced where I was like, right, gonna have that pro debut, definitely gonna go pro. It wasn't like a thing where will I go pro or anything like that. I always knew I was going to go pro. That was always my goal. But basically, yeah, I wanted to use. I ended up going to 4 IMMAFs to really round out my game, staying active while I was coaching and doing college. Like I didn't slow down fighting at all. Like I said, I got 30 amateur fights in there. A lot of them against the highest level, and I medalled at every IMMAF as well. So that's always been a big kind of confidence booster for me as well. Like I see you see some lads like just at this year's IMMAFs, for example, the World Championships there in Serbia was such a high level, incredibly high level, with the likes of Tajikistan and Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan, all these incredible Eastern wrestling and boxing nations, and all. They're incredibly good at MMA. It's very difficult, and you've got the likes of a world champion like Fergus Jenkins from New Zealand. He ended up going out in the first round, and something that was a big kind of, I felt was a feather in my cap, and what's gonna stand to me as a pro now is that I medalled at every IMMAF I went to, all 4 of them. I managed to get to that podium finish, so my game was rounded enough that I could get past those 32, 16, last 8 every time. And unfortunately never picked up that gold, 3 bronzes and a silver, but hopefully now I'm fighting, correcting the mistakes, I'm rounding out my game, like I was saying, and I'm fighting that bantamweight where I think I fit perfectly size-wise, and you'll really see now if I can get that gold now as a professional, obviously not enough gold, but the gold is in a Cage Warriors belt down the line, or wherever I end up.
Alexander, I guess when you're on about your amateur career there, 30 fights, all the IMMAF events, and now from the coaching side, you've a lot of amateurs coming through, as you mentioned, Keith, Jordan, Ross, all the lads. What advice do you give them as they're kind of trying to develop as fighters and make the moves towards pro?
So the 3 that you mentioned there, Ross, Jordan, and Keith, they'll be the next ones going pro. Absolutely. So, and they all want it. That is their mission. So basically, yeah, I've been telling them that they're just gonna have to keep training, keep fighting, and all of them are gonna get a few more fights in. So I'd be looking at them maybe at the end of this year, but more than likely probably early next year, for any of those 3 to look at a professional debut. What they are really kind of working on, all 3 of them, the same as myself, is just really getting those day before weight cuts down. That's why I feel like the one thing the IMMAFs you don't practice doing with the same day weigh-ins. You kind of diet down to a weight that you're comfortably walking at, and then you fight at that. And you don't really get used to just that water cut and like filling right back up and having that day to prepare and putting in a proper camp where your opponent and all. So what I've been saying to them really is, while we're looking a lot at pro kind of game planning, like obviously the heel hooks, the knees to the head and elbows. We're looking at that. We're practicing that with them, obviously for myself, and then those looking to go pro. I'm also pushing them now to really fight all three of them fighting bantam day before, and getting those like proper fight camps, weight cuts in. And also, what I've been saying to them, and something that I did, especially after so much fights, is just trying to really enjoy your last amateur fights. You know, really go out there and let loose. You know, like when you know you're gonna go pro, when you know you're already good at MMA, and you don't need to be afraid that you'll go out there and just be wank and just get beaten. When you know you're already good, like the way I see it is, if like you know you're already good and your man beats you, then he must have been good. You know, it's not because you're shy. So once you kind of have that out of your system where you're actually afraid that, oh, I might actually just not be able to do MMA, you know, and you have your skill set down, especially towards the end of your amateur career where you know you're going to go pro, you know it's going to reset to 0-0. You know, go out there and really see if you enjoy the sport. See if you really enjoy being in the cage in that moment. Because if you don't, then maybe it isn't the move. Maybe it isn't a career choice, because it's hard. You know what I mean? It's hard, like the weight cuts to train and the sacrifice you make for fighting, they're hard, and the risks are high, the reward is high. But if you're just doing it for the reward, I don't think the risks reward ratio is actually quite there. You know, I think you really have to enjoy the sport. You have to enjoy getting in there, you know, to a certain degree. It's obviously nerve-wracking. It's obviously a little bit, it's obviously tough, but there has to be that element of, oh, this is what I want to do, and I'm enjoying it when I'm in there. I'm moving around. I'm enjoying fighting this guy who thinks that he's able to beat me, and I'm going to try to stop him, you know. I'm going to try to beat him. So that's what I'm really been telling them, just to kind of really now, this year, 2023, for all three of them, rounding out their games, enjoying the end of the twilight of their amateur careers themselves. Like a lot of them, Jordan is 22 fights in, and he's fighting for a title the week after Mike Cage Warrior's fight now against Kieran Brady. Bantamweight title, so he's doing exactly what, you know, we're looking at doing. Keith then is looking to fight soon enough. He's just kind of coming back after his eye injury and all that kind of thing. Things aren't really suiting him to fight right now. He needs to just kind of fix a few things with his training and that kind of thing. But he's still looking at a similar window for pro, so he'll be looking for those bantamweight title fights the day before. And the same with Ross then as well. Ross was supposed to be fighting Charlie Flanagan on UKFC for the bantamweight belt in May, but Charlie has injured his hand, so that fight's now off, and we'll be looking for another fight for Ross then on one of the upcoming shows soon enough. So that's kind of the way it is with all those three. We've got another good few lads coming through that are more like kind of in the middle of their amateur careers. They need like higher level amateur fights, IMMAFs, titles, and that kind of thing themselves, and then we'll hopefully bring even more of the CMAC into the pro ranks. That's what I'm just trying to lead from the front here, you know, and just go out there, show what we can do, you know, just working really hard every day, training really hard, picking each other's brains, being there for each other, and just seeing how far we can go. So it's kind of a big, you know, it's a big step for me now, fighting in the Tree Arena for Cage Warriors, as bringing the gym's kind of publicity level up. But like that, if there's anyone that I would want to do, it would be me, obviously. You know, I want to lead the way, show them how it's done, and tell them, you know, this is what we're doing is correct. So that's the plan. Obviously, if it goes pear-shaped, you know, that's the way, that's what happens. But the plan is for me to go out there, show that we're doing everything right, and then them to follow suit, get a few more fights in this year, and then hop onto the Cage Warriors themselves, or whatever shows they end up on, whatever management teams they work with. Like that Showtime are interested in all three of them as well. They haven't signed yet, because they're amateur, they don't really need to. They can get fights through just their own matchmaking, the local promoters. But that's all there for them there as well. So yeah, I think we're coming on really good, really well in CMAC, and hopefully now I'll show it in 3 weeks' time.
Alexander, you're talking kind of about walking the walk there and leading from the front, and you're a fantastic resource given your experience for these guys, for these young guys coming up. Looking at your record, 30 fights, you mentioned you made your amateur debut when you were 16 years old, and when you look back on your record, it's like taking a stroll through kind of memory lane of Irish MMA. Like, you fought guys like Lee Hammond and Leon Hill, who are, you know, pros now, and like Lee is obviously involved in The Ultimate Fighter. You fought through different eras. The Tiernan Loughran was your last amateur fight, and he's, you know, thriving on the amateur scene right now. But even looking at the promotions that you fought on, it's like Battle Zone, Ryotion, Rumble and Rush. Like, these are promotions that don't even exist anymore. Is it kind of crazy to you to look back? Like, does that almost feel like a lifetime ago when you were having those fights?
A little bit, to be honest. Yeah, no, it is actually a long time. Like, even Ross only sent me a picture today of him weighing in 7 years ago for his first title fight, and then weighing in for his last fight there, and just the difference. You know, he's bald now. That's the main thing. But like, that's 7 years. You know, and like, it's in some ways it's like, how is that 7 years? And then you think to yourself, like, that really was 7 years ago. Like, we were actually 16, 17-year-old lads just trying to, you know, because this was kind of just before McGregor was taken off, or just when McGregor was kind of taken off. So there was a big influx in MMA, but both of us started, like, prior to that. We were just like, what is this sport? You know, like, where is this sport going to go? We, you know, like, there wasn't that kind of push behind it. Like, this media that I'm doing right now with you lads, and all the media around Irish amateur scene, like, that just didn't exist, you know? Like, when I was, like, winning fights and I was 10-1 and that kind of thing back in the day, you know, not that no one cared, but, like, there wasn't really anyone there to care, you know, in a way. Like, there was just, like, the other fighters and that kind of thing, and I felt like a good fighter that was going to go pro. Like, there wasn't kind of this opportunity to promote yourself the way that we have it nowadays. So that's one of the major differences, and it's great in that, like, you can start building your career so early, and you can really get used to doing things like this publicity and that kind of thing. And I also think it puts a little bit more pressure on the lads today as well to perform and that kind of thing, because there seems to be, anyway, a little bit more interest around everything. Well, that's most likely due to McGregor. But yeah, back to that question and that kind of thing, like, about back in the day, yeah, all those shows, like, they were like the shows that I wanted to be on, if you know what I mean, back when I was like 13, 14, when I was boxing, when I wanted to do MMA. It would have been to just fight on Battle Zone or to fight on Ryotion and all, because I was just going to the events and watching the lads fight, you know. Like, it's interesting, there's even a few, like, I fought Marcin and Barra, he's fighting on Cage Warriors. I fought Leon Hill, who was actually fighting Marcin. Then there's the likes of even Rhys McKee, like, on Battle Zone when I was 16. I was in a 4-man tournament. So the 4 men in the tournament were me versus Andrew Gill in the semi-final, and Valdrin Lubestani versus Rhys McKee in the other semi-final. So I ended up coming out on the wrong side of a split decision against Owen. Not wrong side as in it was, I did, like, I think Owen actually deserved it. It was a close fight, but it was, you know, it was close, but I thought he edged it. Myself, it was my first loss, and I didn't fight great. But if I had won that, and, like, obviously one that just thought I did, I would have fought Rhys that night, you know. And now Rhys is obviously main event in the card that I'm debuting on. So, you know, it's not like you were saying earlier, the occasion and fighting in the tree, and it's not like I never seen myself in this position. Like, I always felt like I had been fighting and sparring and training with lads who are, like, you know, who are already here, who are already in this position. So I've kind of always felt like I deserve to be here, or like I will be here. Just from all those fights, yeah, all those lads, and see where all those lads have gotten today. You know, even Lee is you know, incredible at pro. And a lot of the other lads have fought in the IMMAFs. I think it's there's, like, the likes of Alexander Loof. He's the FCR champion 5-0. I think he is now as a pro, and I beat him in the IMMAFs as well. And these kind of things. So these kind of, like, having fought these lads previously is what gives me the confidence now to step into that tree arena and not crumble under the pressure would be the goal, you know, to hold it together.
It's amazing to hear you speak, because it's kind of crazy to me that you're 24 years old. Like, you have such experience. You've been around MMA for so long and fighting for so long, but also you're talking about, you know, you went to college, you went to Trinity College, you've done a history degree, you've had the gym, basically running the show in the gym. You're coaching these young lads coming up who are themselves amateurs and only a couple of years younger than yourself. And then also add on top of that, you're also now the assistant coach for the Irish national team as well. Like, it just seems like there's a lot going on in your life, and I remember myself at 24 years old, and there's not a fucking chance I'd have been able to handle all that. Do you feel the weight of all that pressure, I guess, or not necessarily pressure, but like you have a lot going on? Do you feel the weight of that sometimes?
Yeah, of course I do. Yeah, of course I do. And there is a lot, there is a lot to deal with there. There really is. So an important part of this, and I'm still only learning, I'm still only getting my head around it, is like, compartmentalizing the different parts of it, like trying to really, put the energy, mental and physical energy I have into the things that need to be done right now. So obviously 3 weeks out, the main focus for me is fight camp. And then after that, then in that reprieve window before my next match is booked and that kind of thing, I'll be putting a lot more effort into coaching. As I said, college is now completely out the window. I'm putting that degree on the back burner, but most likely return to it later. The Ireland team then is, it's very interesting for me. I've coached at 4 IMMAF events and I've fought at 4 IMMAF events, so I've been at 8. So to be honest, I feel comfortable in that role, and I'm growing comfortable in that role. Like, it's like you say, I've been around for a long time. So in some ways, I feel, holy shit, I'm 24. How am I going to manage to do this? Like, I haven't a clue what's going on. Can hardly, I've got my driving test on Wednesday, and I'm trying to, learn how to drive. I barely know how to cook. And in some ways, I feel, how am I able to manage this? It feels very like I need to be more mature. But at the same time, other times I feel older than 24. Other times I feel like, okay, I've actually been doing this for ages. So I don't really have that sense of like imposter syndrome where like you feel like you're not supposed to be there. I feel like I am a lot of the times, especially when it comes to MMA and coaching and fighting. I feel I have been here before and I know a lot how to do it. I feel confident in myself a lot of the time doing these things. And then there's other parts in life like that where I feel like, fuck me, I'm only 24. Like, maybe I need to hang back a bit, and learn a bit more. But I'm just trying to balance it and try to learn. I think that's the key. The key is just I'm constantly trying to learn and upskill and upgrade myself as a fighter, as a coach, and as a person. Because once you're stagnant, then that's when you'll really start to kind of show your age. Like, if I just stop learning now when I turn 25, then I'll just be stuck at that level of 25 mindset. I need to just keep learning every year, so that by the time I'm 30, people won't be saying, he's too young to be now completely in charge of an MMA gym that's a big franchise, that rivals SPG's franchise through Ireland. We've got CMAC gyms in every county. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but like that's the kind of dreams that you need to have. I think you need to really what's the word? Becoming complacent, becoming just kind of resting on your laurels. That's exactly when you'll get caught, and I'm just looking to constantly improve myself. So like the pressure is heavy at times, but like I was saying, it's just about compartmentalizing it. Like, I wanted to always improve myself academically. That's now completely put to one side, and I'm focusing on MMA. Like, I also work in a kitchen in Wetherspoons, so that I can actually not die, and have money, to live. So
What are you doing in the kitchen?
I just work, like, honestly, like I say, compartmentalizing different energy. I'm in there. I'm literally a zombie. Like, I'm a vegetable, and I'm in there because I'm just. It's not important to me. I'm earning some money in there to keep me going. But like all I do, I just cook food on the cook line. Defrost, prep food. So I'm just in there to earn my money and get out. I work from 6 a.m. to 3, so I can be out and then put the rest of the day to work in the gym. Then as soon as I'm out of the kitchen. So yeah, I used to work weekends, and that was kind of awkward. But I completely put that aside now, so that I can always be. I don't have to be booking days off for fight shows or anything like that. So yeah, everything is kind of lined up nicely for me. I know you're probably thinking, well, I sound so busy, but to me, to be honest, with college done and my work days picked the way I want them to fit, and just focusing on MMA, I feel like I have everything more under control than ever. I have like it narrowed down to where it needs to be, more so than ever, especially for this fight. Like, there's a lot of focus on this fight, for obvious reasons. But yeah, everything is actually going very well. Like I signed with Yannick McGee for this fight for my weight cuts. That's the first time I've had a proper nutritionist involved as well. Like I've never missed weight. I've always made weight in my 31 amateur or 31 MMA fights up to here. But I really wanted that kind of professional mindset, you know, where instead of me kind of second guessing myself, like, you know, oh, should I eat this today? No, maybe I should be lower, you know, maybe I should do this. Yannick's just there telling me exactly what to do. No, your weight's fine. That's 8.9% over and you're 3 weeks out. That's perfect. Or that's this thing, you know. So I've really benefited from that, kind of having at least that off my mind, if you know what I mean. Like it's he's my nutritionist. I don't have to worry about it. Just do what he says. So that's great, and I'm gonna definitely be looking into doing. Hopefully now when the gym, you know, when I'm winning in Cage Warriors and the gym is building and we're doing great, I'll be able to get more of that going on, like mindset coaches and that kind of thing, so that they can just take some of the pressure off me. The lads are great as well, though, I have to say. Like we've got Key, Ross, and my ma, Deborah. Obviously, they're all fully credentialed IMMAF coaches as well. So like I have them to help out in the gym, and they're always there every night, helping out as well, coaching and training and catching for me, catching for the lads. We train most mornings whenever we can as well. So yeah, it is a team effort like that. I would, like, in saying that I've been saying that I'm deadly under pressure and all. I'd absolutely crack under the pressure of a coach, of coaching, working, training, fighting, college and all. I'd absolutely have cracked under that if it wasn't for the support system I have, with the lads in the gym and my family as well. We've got my ma is absolutely essential. You know, I mean, she's always been there, always will be. I think, you know, my family, like even my sister there, like she hasn't been fighting now since over a year since she was at the IMMAF, but she's been training there. She's been there. She catches for me most days. She's literally like my pad woman. So yeah, that support system is what, you know, gets me over the line without a doubt, you know. So yeah, like I say, it seems like a lot, but everything is actually going absolutely swimmingly at the moment, in my opinion. So hopefully it just shows itself now in 3 weeks. That's kind of what it's all leading to in my mind at the moment.
You said earlier that you had a fight. It's a 5-fight deal with Cage Warriors, and in 3 weeks' time, obviously, you get to make the walk, your debut, big moment. And do you have goals that you set for Cage Warriors and your pro career? Is there kind of a point that you want to reach within those 5 fights?
Yeah, so ideally, you know, if you're just talking generally, I want to fight. For me, what would be great would be to reach a level where I feel like I'm really good at MMA. So like I don't know, a lot of people say, you know, I want to be a UFC champion, and it's just like in their head that this is their goal. For me, I don't know, it's always been in my mind to like evolve as a person and as a academic, as a fighter, as you know, anything in life. So for me, I want to become the best fighter I can become. So if for whatever reason the best level fighter I can be is at the top of the Cage Warriors echelons, which I think is very doable, but we don't know yet. That, you know, that would be great for me. But I really want to push it right to the limit, and hopefully that my level is right up there at the top of the sport, in the UFC and that kind of thing, and I can make some money out of it and have it create a life for myself, using this passion of mine that I enjoy so much, you know. But yeah, so Cage Warriors just, you know, ideally how I've mapped it out. So I have 5 fights. I'm looking to fight, obviously I'm fighting on April 29th. I would like to fight maybe on the London or Rome card in July, if that's doable. And then I think there's a November card for Ireland then, November 26th. So that would be perfect for me as well. As far as I know, the IMMAF Europeans are in September. So that would suit me lovely. I could be 2 fights into my Cage Warriors career, coach on the Ireland team in September, and then as soon as I'm home from September, prepare for the 26th for November, and then enjoy my Christmas. So then I'll have 2 more fights left, and it's 18 months, so that's up till next October. So you're looking at maybe another Irish card, early 2024, and then if I'm 4-0 in Cage Warriors, I don't see any reason why I wouldn't get a shot at the belt or close to the belt at that stage. I think it would be interesting if Caoilte is the champion, considering I fought his brother, his bigger brother. So I'm moving down to fight Caoilte. if he had the belt, that would be interesting. But that I have no, I'm not like banking on that. It's too far away, and I haven't even looked at Caoilte particularly. It's just be interesting little story, if you know what I mean. The other bantamweights out there at the top of the division are very good as well. You've got obviously the champ, the Italian guy, can't remember how to pronounce his name. You've got Nate Fletcher, Martinoni. You've got Nate and Fletcher up the top there as well. He's top class, and then there's a good few. There's a good few that are kind of bouncing a little bit between featherweight and bantam and stuff. So I'm not exactly sure who'll still be bantam when I'm kind of racking up 2 or 3 wins now by the end of 2024. But yeah, that would be the plan. Obviously to win all 5 fights, fight for the belt, maybe defend it once or twice if that's the way it is, and then get picked up by the UFC. Like, I know there's lots of other promotions out there that pay good money, and I'd absolutely be totally open to the option to fight on any of them. But at the end of the day, I grew up watching the UFC and always wanted to be on the UFC. And as I said earlier, for me, one of my biggest goals is just becoming the best martial artist I can become, best MMA fighter I can become. And I feel like fighting in the UFC is like, it just shows that you did that. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be good to be in the UFC, or fighting for the belts at the top cage, whereas you have to be a good martial artist to be at that level and doing things correctly, because the competition is so high. Like, and it's just getting better all the time. The competition is so high. Like one of my Sunday routines there today, I have the UFCs recorded from the night before always, and I get up and I watch them, and just picking out everything I can possibly learn, pick up, coach, and pick up myself. And then, like I said, I go out, walk my dog, get out into nature, and then I do my bit of heat acclimation, and now I'm talking to you. It's a good lifestyle, It's a great lifestyle. It's something I'm enjoying. I'm really enjoying it at the moment, and I'm hoping to keep it going for a good while and really push myself to the limits of my own MMA journey. If that comes with a lot of bling on the way, hopefully a few quid, that would be absolutely perfect. But yeah, I don't know if it's strange. I know a lot of people do kind of just say, like, I'm going to be the youngest UFC champion ever, and this kind of thing. It's always in their mind. I always felt like those ultimatums kind of can end up stunting you. If it doesn't go to plan, or it seems like it's not going to plan, it can just cause you to completely derail. So like, having something more like becoming the best martial artist I can become always kind of works for me, because it's like, yeah, I had 10 losses as an amateur, but like, I know that like I got better in those losses, and so it doesn't seem like I need to, just stop fighting because it went pear-shaped in that particular fight. All I need to do is be better every time. So that's kind of always been my ethos. I think it's a good coaching ethos for the lads as well, because that's the only way you're gonna get better, is if you're constantly striving to be better, despite results. And it's so hard to manage that. It's so hard to manage, the emotions that come with victory and defeat. But one of the things that I've noticed, considering I've had so many fights, is that like both emotions are quite short lived. Like the absolute euphoria of winning after sacrificing everything you have to get that victory is so good. But like, you're just back to life then the week after, just doing the same things for the most part, unless it's a life-changing fight, that kind of thing. And then when you lose, then it's absolutely poxy. Like, you're just there, oh no, what have I done wrong? Everything's going our ways. What am I doing? And then all of a sudden you're just back in the gym training and everything's the same. Your sparring partner, you're still doing the same against them. Like, the loss hasn't affected your trajectory, in any way, really, Like, you're still the same fighter as you were before you got in the cage. No fight is going to level you up or level you down like a massive amount. It's just a point on a trajectory that's hopefully going upwards.
It seems like you really approach things like a true martial artist, Alexander. Like, you're talking about evolution there. You had a lighthearted comment there about the gym, CMAC, and having a CMAC in every county. But when you think of the gym, when you're clearly looking at the likes of SPG, do you feel like the gym is maybe underrated? And is that a goal that you kind of you want to lead? You talk about leading from the front to kind of get the CMAC name out there more. Is that the plan?
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Like that would be great. It'd be deadly to get CMAC out, get us bigger. Like, we're in talk. I've been talking with Showtime. They're looking to work with the gym, not just me, with the gym in general, and kind of help us grow, point us on the right way. you know, that's one thing obviously that like I've been spouting on about myself here, like being able to do all this stuff at 24 and that kind of thing, but I absolutely have no idea about marketing, publicity, media. I'm actually terrible at it. So that's something that like I really need to get my head around. But if I'm not going to, then I need someone else to do it for me. So that's something that we're probably missing. And a few of the lads are much better than me at it and are already, you know, looking at doing that. But yeah, like we want to build this into something that's like a big deal, you know, a real deal. I don't know if we're underrated. I feel like a lot of people do rate us as a club, as a gym. You know, our records are solid. Like, you know, we do tend to do well, and we have been doing well. We've always been doing well. We've always been hanging in there with the big gyms. But like that's it. Over the years, like I've trained with a lot of lads from the bigger gyms, like SPG and Rhino, and I've trained all of them. They all know me personally. I know them personally. I'm on good relationships with all of them. Like it's not a mad competitive rivalry where I want to see anyone do shite or anything. I just want to see us do well, you know, and I don't want to step on anyone else along the way. Ideally, but we're just going to keep trying to do our best and keep trying to grow as a gym. I'm going to keep trying to grow as a coach and as a fighter. I think some of the my philosophy of like, you know, kind of as a true martial artist, like evolving and that kind of thing, comes from like, you know, I started off doing judo when I was 9, so that was kind of my introduction, was a very traditional martial art. I think it's a great base for anyone to start doing martial arts, to be honest. I think judo is great. So that's always going to be in my mindset as well. I do view, because I know like there's a lot of talk, a lot of lads will be like, you know, it's just a knock. You just get in there and it's just a scrap for quid and all in and out. I do see it as more than that, you know, because you have to be intelligent about it, in my opinion. You have to try and game plan, and you have to I'm big into chess. Like I've always been big into chess. I used to do chess tournaments as a teenager and that kind of thing, in like Dublin and Leinster tournaments and that. So I've always been big into like kind of strategy, tactical games and that kind of thing. So that's the way I kind of approach martial arts, and that's always been my approach to martial arts. I love jiu-jitsu for that reason. I think it's very similar to human chess. You know, I feel there's a move and there's a counter move to everything. I love finding it out. And I think one of the things that I'm doing quite well at the moment, and hopefully it will tell on the big stage, is kind of looking at striking from that very tactical and strategic perspective. I feel like there's a lot of tacticians and a lot of, not to use this word derogatorily, but nerds. I'd see myself as a nerd, and not derogatively, but literally just a nerd, as in like I like reading books and all that stuff, like, you know. And I feel like there's a bit of
nothing wrong with being a nerd.
Absolutely. I don't think so either. I think it's great, but there's a lot of kind of a nerd community, or like it's okay to be a nerd in jiu-jitsu. You know, it's like jiu-jitsu nerds are like a thing, but in MMA it's not so much. So I feel like striking is often not approached in as tactical and as like nuanced a way as it could, and that's something that I'm really like looking to explore and have been exploring. And then obviously merging it together then into MMA is what makes it so fun. You know, that's what makes the sport exciting for me and makes me want to do it. Like I said, I have about 35 boxing fights from when I was a teen, and I love boxing. Boxing is a great sport. But at the end of the day, it's just two hands coming at you, and not that it's boring, but like if you're the bigger puncher and you're faster, it's almost impossible for you to lose. Like if you don't get caught with a lucky shot, and if you keep your defense tight all the time, if you're faster and your opponent in boxing, like you're gonna win. That's why boxers go 30-0 and all the time. Like it happens a lot. Whereas like the likes of some of the best MMA fighters you'll ever meet, and you know they're top class, you know they're really, really, really good at MMA. They still have, you know, many losses on their records because it's just so hard. It constantly evolves. You can't get complacent. It's so intriguing. There's kicks, knees, punches, elbows, all the jiu-jitsu, all the grappling, judo techniques, sambo techniques coming in. People are trying to bring in everything. There's capoeira kicks being thrown around. You can really utilize so much in the sport, and that's for me what makes it so interesting. It makes me, you know, has kept me going, I suppose, for like 10 plus years now. training in the sport, you know. And I feel like it is going to be the biggest combat sport if it isn't already, you know, because it's just so exciting, so intriguing, it's constantly evolving, and I'm just happy to be riding this wave. Like, I couldn't have asked for a better time, like I said earlier, to go pro, and to get signed to Cage Warriors for 5-fight deal. In my opinion, like, they're doing 3 arena shows, and I think they're doing 2 this year. Like, that's absolutely perfect. This is the way to platform, or to really launch my career and CMAC, and it's just coalescing lovely for me. So hopefully, I'm doing everything right, and we see that, and the lads see that, and we keep building the way around. Like you're saying, I want to have a CMAC in every county. You know, hopefully the lads that have their coaching license and all, they want it. Some Keith wants to coach, you know. That's one of the things he says he wants to do, that kind of thing. So I've got lads there. We've got ways to branch out and to build. And he's only 21 and 24, but we won't be this age forever. So there's no point in not believing, you know. There's no point in not going for it. You have to just go for it. Like what Israel said, he hopes that someone in the crowd feels the happiness that he felt, and you're not going to get it from not going for it. So just go for it. You know what I mean? Like you are doing. You are just out here interviewing, and, like, you know, being in an incredible media team that you've just set up and built, and it's going great for you, in my opinion. I'm so happy to be
Nice.
on this
We'll
podcast.
we'll slip you that $5 now in a second.
No, but like, it's great to be on this podcast and get a chance talking. You're doing a great job. Like, as far as I'm concerned, you're interviewing the top athletes in the land every few minutes. So you are doing great. You're just taking a good shot at yourselves, and that's how it works. That's how we build. So that's what I'm trying to do myself.
Well, look, I guess in 3 weeks' time, you got the big opportunity. The stage will be set, 3 arena, in front of a home crowd, everything. And your opponent, Tom Wright, coming over from the UK to try and upset the home crowd. Tell us how you feel. What can we expect from you inside the cage without giving too much away?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know too much about Tom. I wasn't really familiar with him before I got the offer, but obviously I've watched all his tape. I think he's a good level. He's a good lad, from England. I think it's great that he's from England. I feel like I get that unilateral, like, Irish support. I feel like, you know, a lot of people, I don't like everyone. I think most people like me. You know, hopefully they do. In the Irish community, I try to, you know, not that I try to, but I'm genuinely amicable with most people in the community. So I'm looking forward to feeling that, like, Irish crowd. You know, I feel like it's something I've always looked forward to. I really enjoy being on the Ireland team. That's why I did it 4 times as well as test myself at the highest level. Being on the IMMAF team, you really feel like the whole support, like the gyms, rivalries fall apart. Like, you'll get your messages from Rhino lads, SPG lads, you know, when you win on the IMMAFs, like, well done, bro, well done. Savage work, stay on it. I love that. I love that whole, like, kind of unilateral Irish support. So I'm really hoping to feel that in the 3 arena against Tom. You know, he's coming over from England, and it's gonna help me. But in terms of his style, he seems, as far as I can see, he's mostly a striker. He's a striking coach in Manchester Predators. Obviously, he mixes with MMA well. He's got some good grappling techniques, and he's fought some top lads in the amateur scene over there in England and done well. He's an experienced lad as well. One of the things I'm kind of interested in, as far as I know, his debut was back in like the 2015s as well. So I feel like me and him are on quite a similar trajectory as well. He's going to be looking to use his opportunity to springboard his platform off my kind of highly touted amateur career, and he's looking to kind of rob that from me. And I'm going to try to stop him as best as I can. He's a bit of a pressure fighter, like volume striker. I am as well, so it could be quite a stand and bang fight, where we really, you know, where it's going to be a bit of a war of attrition. But yeah, I'm looking to mix it up, really, you know, kind of showcase my full skill set. You know, after this will be my 32nd MMA fight, and I'm hoping to show that was 32 fights, like, well spent, if you know what I mean, that I can go wherever Tom wants to go, but ideally wherever I want to go, whenever I want to go, to that position, to that area to that facet of MMA. as it were, you know. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this matchup. I feel like it will be a striking contest for parts of it without a doubt, but like that, I'm looking to mix it up. So I can't wait, to be honest. I think it's a good matchup. Like I said, it's great that he's from England. I don't know too much about him. He seems handy, and it's going to be a good fight. I can't wait to test myself, really. I can't wait to test myself and see if I am right now able to compete at a good level of professional MMA like Cage Warriors, and then build from there, win my 5 fights on Cage Warriors, and see where that takes me. And this is the start. So in one way, it's a culmination. Every camp is a culmination. And I can't look past Tom Wright. Like, it's almost impossible to see the Sunday after the fight. It's like time just ends for me. And I feel like most fighters are the same in that fight. Like, you can't look past it. But at the same time, it's important to plan, especially when you're the coach of the gym and all as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to my five fights with Cage Warriors. Hopefully I go 5-0, but it all starts and ends with Tom Wright in 3 weeks. And I can't wait to go.
Perfect.
Alexander, look, before you finish up, because one really quick question before you go. Are you more nervous, Alexander, to go out there in the tree arena, or are you more nervous to do your driving test?
I'm a little bit nervous for my driving test, to be honest, because I failed it twice before. I just suck at driving. You know, like I'm just touting my own horn here, saying I'm good at MMA and good at academics and all. I'm terrible at driving.
If it's any consolation, Alexander, I failed a theory test.
Yeah, I did pass that. See, I'm good. I'm a nerd. I revised the theory test. I got 40 or 40 on my theory test. I'm good at reading books and getting the questions right. It's the mechanics of the car that I struggle with. It's that kind of hands-on things. I've never been good at DIY. I never did any woodworking skill or anything like that. I've always been a book nerd. But yeah,
maybe tell the driving instructor there that you're a mixed martial arts fighter. It might intimidate him into passing you.
I think bring the sword to the driving test. And
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it'll be great now for my confidence now if I pass this test and then go on to beat Tom in the tree arena. That would be a perfect April for me. So it's all.
Well, look, if the driving test doesn't go according to plan, just don't take that with you into the fight now.
I know that's the tough part. Yeah, that's I'm gonna have to try to hold it together now if that doesn't go well. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully that does go well, and then I'm winning, on both fronts now in April. But yeah, can't wait to go, and I appreciate you having me on, lads. This is I think it's surprising it's actually been this long for me to be on your podcast, because I know you've been chatting to a few of the lads from SevereMMA and that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm happy to get this chat done, and hopefully there'll be a few more in the future. Hopefully
we save the best for last, Alexander.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
That's why Jordan's on next week now.
Oh, brilliant. Look, Alexander, thank you so much. It was great having you on. Best of luck with the theory, not theories, but your driving test, and best of luck with the fight. And we look forward to seeing you in 3 Arena.
Right, thanks very much, lads. Appreciate it having me on. And
thanks a million.
Cage Conflict 9 heavy artillery went down last weekend, and there was plenty of heavy artillery on show, lads, at the event. It was a cracking event on paper. We were really, really excited about it, and it really delivered too, watching it back. And Jared Burns took home the win in the main event. We'll work our way quickly down through the card. Caoilte, I'll go to you just for your thoughts on the main event. Jared Burns picked up the unanimous decision win over Muriel Georgie. Nice to see Jared Burns getting back in there, getting the job done. It was a good fight, entertaining fight. Yeah,
barn burner, like the two lads, they went for it. It was the debut of I always mess up his name, excuse me, Georgia, and he did not look out of place whatsoever. I think it was round 2 and round 3. I was really impressed him, especially in round 3. Burns, probably not his best of performances, not his cleanest performances, but nothing to be ashamed of there. He still looked solid in there and took away the win and retained his belt. So 3-1 now for him, I believe, or is it 2-1? And yeah, exciting future ahead of him.
Yeah, 3-1 after that win.
Yeah, Andy, your thoughts on the fight real quick?
I thought it was a great fight. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought that very evenly matched in rounds 1 and 2. I thought George pulled away in the third. I thought, looking back, round 1, I probably would have scored to Burns, but very, very close. Second round, a real pick 'em. I'm not sure how to pick a winner there, but I thought Burns did a great job. With the knees against I thought his cage wrestling, his grappling was brilliant. George, I thought they were very evenly matched, to be honest. I thought it was good matchmaking. It's what's really impressive to me, and I know Joe McColgan highlighted this in the broadcast, is that a really cool story is that Jared Burns was at one of the cage conflicts, like it might have been the first or second one or whenever it was, and he was just someone in the crowd and was like, do you know what, fucking this is great, I'm going to take up a beginner MMA course. And now he's headlined 2 of their shows. Is pretty cool. And similarly, Marara George, Paul Brown was saying he had a heap of fights last year, only been fighting actively a year. I thought it was pretty high level, considering, when you take that into consideration. Burns, he'll have something to learn from. That third, he lost that third, I think undoubtedly. George is a fascinating fighter to watch because he's just very unorthodox, very wild. He throws some mad kicks.
Threw a mad axe kick at one point.
Yeah, really, really fun fight. And if I'm Jared Burns, 3-1 now, I don't know, maybe he'll fight again at a cage conflict, but you could see him starting to push on to maybe, push for a Cage Warriors or something like that now that he's 3-1 in his pro career and getting that experience under his belt. And yeah, interested to see what's next for both of them, really.
100%. We'll keep it you, Andy. Scott Harvey got the second round knockout TKO. Very impressive performance, and he moves to 3-0 right now. He got the win over Pietro Machete.
Yeah. Pietro Machete, who's training out of SPG now. I think I had previously seen it was ATT top team Italy, but it looks like he's training under John Cavan at SPG. Really evenly matched fight again. I thought the first round was nip and tuck, bit of a war of attrition. It was a lot of kind of cage grappling, jostling for position. I was really impressed by Scott Harvey in this fight, to be honest with you, especially dropping down to bantamweight. It's a new weight class for him. Let's see how he looks. His entries into the takedowns, and I saw this with a lot of the FAI fighters actually on the card, where they would throw like a nice overhand right and just to mask basically the shot, the takedown entry. Thought it worked very, very successfully for them. In the second round, there's kind of a brief exchange on the feet. Machete threw a knee up the middle. Harvey was pumping the jab nicely, and then Harvey started landing, and he landed a nice one too, pushed Machete back a little bit more, and he landed it again. And from there, he kind of just went to work and landed a beautiful shot to drop Machete in the end. Beautiful right hand and got the TKO finish. Big reaction from the crowd. He's a Dubliner, but he's an adopted Belfast boy now. I think he's going out with one of the stars of the radio in Belfast, as Paddy McCarry was telling me when I was up at the gym with him there last weekend. So he's an adopted son of Belfast now, and a great performance from him. And he's had a few good wins now on cage conflict. So he's another one that could be pushing for a bigger show coming soon.
100%. Caoilte Henry Corrigan went out there and put on a very, very good performance. Didn't waste any time getting the fight down, getting the rear naked choke. It was a really good performance by Henry overall, wasn't it?
Very good. Made it like he had a late change of opponent after his original opponent had to pull out due to injury. So I think he got what's his name, Stracapiti. God, I'm gonna butcher that, but he came in so he came in last minute, I think, with a week's notice, and yeah, so he took the fight. Fair play to him, Corrigan, so he got to compete. But wow, yeah, I was impressed with him. So he got it down early. And his opponent got to the knees, looking for a takedown. Corrigan, smooth as you like, gets the back, and it was game over from there. Synced in the rear naked choke, and that's all she wrote. Finite.
No hooks even.
Exactly. Brilliant performance by Henry there. An exciting prospect at flyweight right now. Also an exciting prospect, Andy, in the middleweight division. Sean McCormack moves to 3-2. Another excellent one-sided victory here. Wasted no time himself getting the fight down and secured a lovely armbar off his back. There's been a lot of talk, and I know you've been speaking to a few of the lads, and Reese and Joe. Everyone is talking so highly of Sean McCormack. It was great to see him come in here and get the win.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen Sean on the Dublin card, to be honest, just given that he went
Me
in
too.
on short notice and fought Open Elliott. But he looked brilliant. He looked huge. He looked huge in there. I thought his kicks were brilliant. He was smashing his opponent. Forget his name, Enzo Tabaya with some teeps, high kicks, through a nice overhand right again to set up the takedown, and from there, Tabaya kind of almost ended on top, but then McCormick kind of quickly switched and locked on the arm and got the armbar, and so it was a swift night of the office for Sean McCormick. Would see him back in the win column, and yeah, I'm sure he'll kick on, and I imagine I'd hazard a guess we'd probably see him in Cage Warriors cards at some point later this year.
Yeah, you'd be thinking probably the one later on in the year too. And I would agree with you as well. It's a shame we didn't get the chance to see him on the most recent one as well. Caoilte, I'll move to you. We had showcased 2 separate fights, one for the featherweight championship, one for the welterweight championship, and a fantastic showcase of Irish amateur mixed martial arts. We'll start off with Max Lally versus Tiernan Loughran, and a fight that I was buzzing to watch, and it did not disappoint. Like 2 fantastic amateur prospects, a fantastic showcase for Irish amateur MMA as well, and a really, really close fight where Max Lally just about squeezed out the split decision, but it was nip and tuck there for a while. You could see it swinging either which way. I think I would be confident saying I just about agree with the decision. I'm sure Tiernan might think differently. It's a disappointing one to lose. Max kind of controlled the grappling a little bit in round 1. Tiernan used his sprawl very, very well, coming in for the rest of the fight as well. A very close second. I'm looking at the triangle, and the damage may have swung it for Max, so that would have had Tiernan down 2 rounds coming in, and Tiernan's best round was in round 3. Big exchanges with a head kick from Tiernan. Max landed a couple of good right hands, but fantastic showing from both lads here. It's like that's a kind of a fight I'd love to watch every single weekend if I could.
Like it was such a high level like matchup. It was probably one of the best fights you can make in amateur MMA in Ireland, to be honest with you. High level grappling fight, but not even just that. They showcase so much between their grappling, the striking in the final round. There's glimpses of it in the second round as well, which is really impressive. I would have hated to have been a judge. I decided to just sit back and watch that one instead of even trying to figure out who won each round, because it was just so good to watch. High level at its finest. And there's so many lessons both of them can take from that. Like Max he got caught with a few strikes in the final round. Probably was dealing with a little bit of tiredness, as you would in such a high-paced fight. Tiernan, on the other hand, with the takedowns, the grappling, lots of different looks that both of them got to see, and lots of lessons to take. But a few moments that stood out. That grande roll in round 2, I think I was speaking to you about it earlier. Serious. And then jumping a flying triangle afterwards from Lally, that was something else. I've not seen, or if I've forgotten it, if I've seen something like before, but I don't think I've seen anything like before. That was really impressive. Third round, Tiernan Loughran, the striking was really good, and he recognized that as well, that where he had the advantage there and tried to keep it on the feet. He was throwing that high kick, and he was close to landing it clean a few times. It was really, really impressive. Fantastic fight overall. As you said, I watched it again and again. That's 4 belts across 3 divisions for Max Lally now. So what a prospect he is, and what a prospect Tiernan Loughran is, who's just going through a gym change as he's moved to FAI. So exciting futures for both of them.
Absolutely. Max picking up the featherweight championship there, and 2 other exciting prospects as well, Andy, and for the welterweight championship, Jess Paulo got the unanimous decision win against Senan Coakley, and a unanimous decision win, but a close fight overall between the two. Lots of grappling. Senan was very active off his back. What were your thoughts on that fight? It was a good showing and a great win for Jess Paulo. Senan Coakley had been undefeated heading into the fight, picked up his first defeat as an amateur. What's your thoughts on the fight?
Absolutely. I thought it was a great performance from Jess Paulo. Senan's someone that we've talked about and I've been excited about, and I probably had a lot of hype behind him coming into this one, and Jess Paulo just kind of nullified him. I thought he did a brilliant job of closing the distance, not allowing Coakley to get his shots off, and taking the fight to the ground and really controlling the action from there. I thought his pressure was very, very good. I thought he really did a great job of nullifying Coakley's attacks. I thought, so it was 29-28, 30-27, 30-27. I thought the first round, very, very close round. There was kind of a brief exchange on the feet. Coakley was trying to threaten subs, but didn't really kind of get anywhere. And then a lot of heavy pressure from Paolo once he got on top and a couple of shots at the end of the round, close one. I thought the second was a clear round for Jess Paolo, and I would say the third as well. So I could see 30-27 or 29-28, but definitely the right decision. And I think a very, very solid performance from Jess Paolo, who is putting together a lovely run at amateur. And I think Joe McColgan kind of said that the small cage and the way that he just kind of engulfs his opponents in wrapping them up was it really played into his strategy and got him the win ultimately.
Yeah, it was a very good game plan and he implemented it very well, did Jess Paolo, and he takes home the welterweight title for Cage Conflict. Just to run quickly through some of the rest of the fights here, a couple of unanimous decision wins. James Hughes picked up a great unanimous decision win. Vladimir Stanka picked up a win to move to 3-1. Michael Shields moved to 3-2 with a unanimous decision win over Andrea Stanka. The two Stanka brothers there, is that correct, Caoilte? Yeah.
I believe so, yeah.
Munro Kerr picked up another good win over Jake Gilpin. He goes to 2-3. Another unanimous decision win for Kieran Maskey. He moved to 3-0. Nikolai Shiopu picked up a nice knockout win against Jack McAvoy. He moves to 5-3. Dimitri Pantilini got a lovely Americana against Carter Russell. Lots of finishes on the undercard, guys. The undercard was really, really excited. Emma Core picked up a great knockout win as well against Gabriel Muragai. Josh Hoy picked up a rear naked choke win over Jordan White. Ben Johnson picked up a KO win over Stephen Wallace. Sean Matthews picked up a KO win over James Wallace. Ava Cruz and Nicole Cameron, they went to war in the second fight of the night. I was really impressed. They really just went at each other hammer and tongue. Lots of great, exciting striking exchanges there. And last but not least, Callum Burns picked up a lovely Auld Triangle choke to kick us off for the start of the card. Quickly, if you want to go through any one of those, is there anyone that you would like to highlight through all of those performances, lads, before we move on to our interview with Niall Sunderland?
The Emmett Core performance was like that blew me away. I thought he absolutely just destroyed his opponent. And the finish, like did he start with a head kick, the body kick, leg kick, and then just like it was ferocious. It was kind of terrifying.
He just made a decision that he was just going to let loose, and he did, and it was fantastic. The head kick to set up the finish was beautiful. Yeah,
another guy I was impressed with, another ZKJ guy, was Kieran Maskey. He was someone who I'd been tipped on to prior to the event, and I was very impressive. And also, I thought a really fun fight was Ava Cruz versus Nicole Cameron.
Really good fight.
It was Nicole's. It was her second ever fight, I think, or something like this. It did seem there was a bit of a gulfing experience, and it kind of showed in Cruz. But Cruz looked like she's been. I've seen Cruz fight a few times now, and she looked very quick. Her strikes look very good in this fight. I think she's kind of developing nicely.
But she showed a good lot of well-roundedness as well, and taking the fight down, she was very good in top control as well.
She did, I think, in every single round. She landed this, I can't remember the name of the takedown, where she kind of had the body lock up against the fence and then kind of split the legs and then just kind of, I can't remember the
body
name
lock inside trip. It was kind of
basically doing, yeah. And she used it to a great effect in every single round.
Perfect. Anything standing out to you, Caoilte?
Pitnelli. Thought he had this huge takedown. I'm not sure if you remember it. He almost flipped him, Russell, and then it was the beginning of the end. Really got the takedown. I think he got into side. He was in side control. Then landing a few strikes. Recognized the arm was there, kind of popping up, and then he just locks onto it straight away and gets the Americana. Thought that was incredible performance from him. So that was really impressive. And Shopu, I think he deserves a really big shout out. That's his third fight in 7 days, lads. I think he'd scarf hold, wrapped up the legs, and then completely trapped the arm, started throwing bombs. Referee no choice but to step in. There was not intelligently defending himself was McAvoy. So that's 3 wins for Shopu in the space of a week. Incredible.
Yeah, overall, Andy, I think if you want to talk about an event as a whole, it was another massive success for Cage Conflict and Liam Shannon and Pat McAllister. They're really setting the standard when it comes to putting on shows and matching up these fighters as well. You have to give them credit where credit is due.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Like, there's loads of others, because I find with these, you watch kind of like 15 or 16 fights in a row, and you're like, how do I remember which fight is which? Like the Stanker, but there's loads of them. There's probably more that we forgot to single out that were great. there was no fights really where I was like, oh, this is a bit crap, or I was engaged in them all. I thought the matchmaking was great. I thought it was very competitive, especially towards the top of the card. And those amateur title fights, like, you're not going to get a better, like, to put on like a Senan Coakley versus Jess Paolo into Max Lally versus Tiernan Loughran. Like, I would watch. So to give you some insight, Tiernan Loughran wants that fight again. I would watch that again in a heartbeat. I thought it was the pinnacle of amateur MMA in Ireland at the moment. Just brilliant. And then you've got 3 pro fights. So it's like you don't see many pro fights in Ireland these days, except on the likes of Cage Conflict, and hopefully we'll see more in Premier FC, which is coming up.
Perfect. Great segue that we can go out and talk to Niall Sunderland, who is the promoter of Premier FC. They are going to travel down to Cork on April 16th, right around the corner at St. Finbarr's GAA for their 6th installment. And let's head on over to Andy this time. Not Caoilte. We'll head to Andy to kick us off for that.
Jeez, Andy sounds even sexier this time.
Stop. You're really loving yourself today, Andy. I love it. Over to you. Over to Andy Stevenson for the interview with Niall.
And now we are joined by Niall Sunderland, a fighter, a promoter, a man of many trades, who is heading up Premier FC, who return this coming Sunday, the 16th of April, to Cork. Well, I suppose not return. This is your first event in Cork, isn't it, Niall?
First event in Cork, Andy, yeah.
First event, so not quite returning to Cork, but coming to Cork, to St. Finbarr's GAA, the only promotion in Ireland currently to be putting on events in the Republic of Ireland in 2023. Obviously, for everyone's sake, I hope Cage Legacy come back, but as of right now, the only ones on. And I noted also that you guys announced another show. You're going to return to Tipperary, to Clonmel in July for PFC 7. But we wanted to get you on because I would say a friend of the show, Niall Sunderland. We've been kind of chatting behind the scenes. It's always good to chat about Irish MMA with you. And I think before we dive into the upcoming card this week, which I'm excited about, I wanted to kind of get a sense for everyone listening of like who you are, how you obviously how you got into MMA, and then how you ended up forming a promotion alongside your partners, shall we speak?
Yeah, so I suppose I would have heard about MMA through John Kavanagh. I would have watched one of his videos, just stumbled across it on YouTube probably about 10 years ago. I was about 16 at the time, I'd say, and I wanted to try it. I never really associated MMA with, I don't know, I never saw myself as being involved in MMA. I played GAA and rugby and other sports as well, but I always, to be quite honest, when I thought of MMA, I always thought it as being a little bit kind of barbaric or whatever. I just never really saw myself as being involved in the sport. And then to see this kind of cerebral character in John Kavanagh speaking about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Hoist Gracie and his kind of inroads into the sport, I was kind of wanted to try it, but there was no real gyms around Tipperary at the time. Conor McGregor hadn't won his first world title, or I think that was actually around the time of the Holloway McGregor bout. So there was no real gyms in Tipperary at the time. But then I heard through a friend that there's a gym out in Feathered, which is a village outside Clonmel, which Tipperary is kind of a rural area anyway. So when I got to hear there was an MMA gym out in Feathered, I kind of wanted to start. And right away when I went out, I met Colin Maher, who's become my coach for a long time, and I bonded with him straight away. And he has a gift in terms of like he makes you want to train with him, and he has the ability to kind of make everyone feel part of his team in SBG Clonmel, and have that kind of fight version of a GAA club kind of atmosphere. And I kind of fell in love with it straight away, and I was a fan for a long time before kind of starting a promotion. So I'd say that was about 8 years ago now. So I've been training ever since, but mainly involved in the grappling and jiu-jitsu aspect of it. And I suppose about 3 years ago, I wanted to start a promotion. I knew that I kind of come from a sales background. I kind of worked in sales for a long time. And I knew I wasn't going to be a fighter, but I still had a passion for the sport, if you know what I mean. And I just wanted to get into the promoting side of it and kind of cut my teeth on the regional scene. But yeah, that's more or less the long and the short of it. And now, 2023, we're onto our 6th show post-lockdown. We've kind of hit the ground running, and that's more or less the long and the short of it.
Yeah, and you mentioned there you knew that you weren't going to be a fighter. Did I not see that you had a fight lined up there recently in Ur?
Yeah, I had one lined up. Unfortunately, my opponent, I think he got COVID. He had to pull out. That was the reason. There was no late replacement there, unfortunately. I was mad to go. I've been competing in jiu-jitsu and a little bit of wrestling as well throughout the years. But the main reason I wanted to compete in amateur MMA, I compete in novice MMA, but never at an amateur level. The main reason I wanted to compete in amateur for me is just to have that experience under my belt, I suppose. It's not, I'm not going to be a fighter. It's not in me. I'm passionate about MMA. I love the promoting side of it, but it's just not going to happen as a fighter. It's not something that I particularly want to do for a living, I suppose. But I'd like to develop Premier FC into that over time.
Yeah, and I suppose why go into promoting? You mentioned you come from a sales background, but what were the kind of driving forces for you behind starting a promotion alongside Colin Maher?
The main reason, I suppose, is just passion. You can sell. I think it comes out in your voice. Like I used to sell mobile phones. It comes out in your voice when you're passionate about something, when you like it, when you like the fighters that I mean, you wouldn't call amateur promoting as such. It's more event organizing. When you get to the professional side of things, it's more you're selling the fighter's story and you're selling what their narrative is, their character, their personality, etc. And you see fighters that are very attached to their promoters. Example, Anthony Joshua and Eddie Hearn. They're kind of like their best pals. But yeah, I suppose it's just a passion. It boils down to passion, really, doesn't it? I just want to be involved in MMA. It's something that I can't get out of me. Similar to, I think, all of us. We're all just addicted to it, really.
Yeah, and look, it's been a great start for Premier FC, in my opinion. So this is what, 6th show. So you had 4 in 2022. You've already had one in 2023, and you're kicking on. What have you learned so far? Like, what have been the highlights and the lowlights so far in your short but busy promoter journey so far?
Yeah, there's highlights and lowlights. I suppose the first year of any kind of new enterprise, you're going to learn a lot. But I'd say I suppose the regulation side of it, the medical side of it, making sure that everything's done on time and above board is the main thing that are kind of the learning lessons, I suppose, in the first year. And it's great to kind of see that we've had some kind of high level fights already. Mario Di Stefano versus Solomon Simon in Kilkenny was a great event and a great kind of highlight at the end of that event. And yeah, I suppose, yeah, there's been lows as well, but there's certainly been highs. I suppose those are kind of the highs and the lows, really.
When, for someone who doesn't really know, like we've kind of talked about promotions in Ireland and the difficulties, and it's very easy to see that putting on an event up north seems to be easier and seems to be less hurdles to kind of overcome. When it comes to putting on a show in Ireland, what's involved in the Republic of Ireland? What's involved? Like what do you encounter along from kind of the idea, the conception of the idea, to actually putting on the event on fight night?
I suppose it's kind of the main things are kind of regulation and safety standards. Like, unfortunately, in the Republic of Ireland, as we all know, we have a black mark on our record in 2016 with the incident. But since then, it's sort of the safety standards and the regulations have been a little bit more stringent. But I suppose for me, it's more so just it is what it is. We kind of have to get on with it in the Republic of Ireland. There aren't as many promotions, I would imagine, for that reason, the additional expenses that go with that. But it's something that I accept, and it kind of just is what it is in that sense. But yeah, SevereMMA is the main pre-fight medicals. Obviously, in the Republic of Ireland, you have to have your MRI, annual blood test, annual medical exam. The MRI for amateurs is one-off, but it's yearly for pros. But that will be the same for organizations like Bellator and Cage Warriors as well, who use SevereMMA Mark V, which is the highest level of medical standards. And then the next thing is your on-site medical team. So the on-site medical team, you must have a certain standard of doctors on site for the event to be IMMAF approved, essentially. Outside of that, the show can't really go ahead. It's not regulated. Those are the main things. And I suppose the main thing that people would talk about are the costs. Like, that's an additional cost, as well as insurance as well. Those are kind of the main two. I'm friendly with some of the promoters up the north, and I hear figures being thrown around as being like sort of significantly less. But as I say, it kind of is what it is, and it's something that we accept. And Cage Legacy, Era FC also accept those standards.
Sorry, good point about Era FC there. I forgot about Era for a second.
Yeah.
What ahead of you?
I don't know how deep you can get into it, but like when you're talking about putting on an event now, like what kind of figures are you looking at for you just to simply put on the show after it's all said and done?
Fixed costs for a show, depending on the venue. you're looking at, I mean, you can bloat it up a lot and kind of go to a much bigger venue. But I suppose for your baseline amateur show, you're looking at, depending on what you spend, you could be looking at 8,500 to 10,500, I suppose, would be a good kind of ballpark figure. But as I say, if you can bloat that up or kind of shrink it down depending on what you're looking to do.
Yeah, 100%. And like for you, mainly it's most of those costs comes off safety. And when you've been talking to the promoters, look, we talked with Liam Shannon and look at he expressed, that they had a lot of expenses as well, but it is actually a little bit cheaper due to the safety costs up in the north. When you're talking to those promoters in the north, what advice are they telling you? How are they telling you to try and be cost effective? What are some of that conversation that's happening right now in maybe some of the differences between running an event up in the north and down in the Republic?
I'll be honest, I haven't really spoken in specifics with them about that sort of thing. It does seem like a hell of a lot more common. There's a lot more promotions up the north. But yeah, if I'm being 100% honest, I wouldn't kind of get into that with them. Kind of the standards that are on site for the Northern Ireland promotions kind of are different, and they kind of keep quiet about that, I suppose. I wouldn't really have a specific answer for you.
Yeah, but is it more so like when we talk about costs, is it insurance costs? Is that where the bulk of it comes in?
It's a mix of the two, really. Like, I don't know, maybe it's a little bit over exaggerated. Like I don't really have a problem with it. I don't really have a problem with the safety standards that are on site. I have a lot of pride that I know that the fighters that are on the show are fighting under standards that are like basically the highest level in the sport. I think it's pretty, as far as I'm aware, the standards are pretty similar to like what you get at like a massive UFC event or a Bellator event and so on. And yeah, I think that most of those standards are brought in as a result of the incident in 2016.
With the safety standards, do you find that, because a lot of fighters now, you'll see them go up north, do you find there's limitations with matchmaking with some athletes not wanting to compete in the Republic of Ireland and prefer to compete in the north?
Sorry, what was that, Caoilte, at the start of that? I didn't quite hear.
So is there any limitations with matchmaking with athletes that might prefer to compete up north than they would in the Republic of Ireland?
Yeah, I'd say up until now, I'd say there's a lot fewer guys with MRIs done because they didn't have to have them up the north. But now that there's this Combat Sports Safety Commission in the north of Ireland that's kind of just been introduced, I would imagine that will just go up and up and up. And even in the time that I've been running shows, I can see a big increase in the number of fighters that have done MRIs. But yeah, I would say that some people would prefer, and I've heard from different gyms, even in the Republic, that would just say, look, we don't compete in the Republic of Ireland due to the medical costs. They just say point blank, we're not going to do that. But yeah, I'd say over the next year or so, when you see like most of the shows up the north are utilizing the Combat Sports Safety Commission, they'll be forced to get MRIs anyway. So I think it's going to just help everyone. I think that's kind of on the way out in a sense.
You're on about over the next year and more people getting the MRIs. Do you think that will have more of a positive impact in terms of getting professional fights on a Premier card in the near future?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, the standards are more stringent for professionals in terms of you have to have your MRI every year. But yeah, I'd imagine that it won't be a problem because the standards are just in place everywhere. It's ubiquitous, really, for the whole country. So it should be easier for sure to get more pros on, and we're in talks with some people for a nice big pro fight later on in the year as well.
Oh
yeah, that's
exciting to hear. You can't be teasing us like that now, Niall. You can't be teasing us like that. When look to talk about the actual promotion itself and Premier FC. Like when promotions put stuff together, they put a product together. They want to create a certain atmosphere around their shows. Like what do you want Premier FC to be known as when people what kind of an organization, like how would you describe Premier FC and maybe in comparison to other, or what's the difference between Premier FC in comparison to other promotions that might be putting on shows?
I want to create narratives around fights. I kind of want to use I want to sign guys and get guys, more so when we're moving on to the professional side of things. At the amateur side of things, it's more so down to wherever those guys feel comfortable competing and where they want to compete, and geographically whatever suits them, because ultimately, like at amateur level, you're not getting paid. It's up to them to where they want to compete. And I'm not too concerned about, if you want to compete on a Premier card and you like us, that's amazing. It's down to you to gain the experience where you want to gain the experience. But I suppose longer term, I would like to build narratives around fights and build guys up to the point where they're kind of household names, and have like build rivalries, build storylines, and have kind of big fights taking place on Premier FC. And yeah, as far as production, as far as the actual show and the differentiation between them, as long as we have a good level of production, I think the narrative around the fights is the main thing that gets people through the door, and what creates an amazing night is that you want to see your favorite fighter against someone that maybe another fighter that you don't like them or loathe them. You're going to be there to watch them. So I kind of want to create the narratives around it and have that kind of spectacle based on the characters and the personalities, more so than the actual show itself. Like, the way I would see it is that the fighter is my boss. I don't really see it as me being their boss in a sense, when we move on to the more professional side of things. Like, it's more about them and the story and the narrative, I suppose.
Yeah, 100%. And look, with MMA in the Republic, we've seen like Dublin has been the hub. What Premier FC has done, which I'm delighted to see, I'm a Kilkenny man down in the southeast, has brought more shows down to the southeast. There used to be a couple of shows back in the day. Now we see shows in Clonmel. Even you're over in Cork now for your next show. Is that something that was like a real stickler for you guys when you created the promotion, is to put on more shows down in the southeast and the southwest and spread more shows out outside of Dublin per se?
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of it's a lot easier. Like the Talbot Hotel, I can walk up there in 5 minutes. You know what I mean? It's literally just up the road from me. So yeah, it's so much easier geographically to just get fights on. Yeah, and we've kind of cut our teeth in Dublin already, and we'll certainly be back perhaps in October, just finalising the venue on that one. And hopefully we're going to really make a statement on this next Dublin show. But yeah, definitely. I mean, Miles Price and Team Rhino Kilkenny, or Milo Martial Arts, I should say, they're great to us, and we're definitely going to be back to Kilkenny. There's a couple of names in that gym that I think over the next few years will really blossom into big fighters. And yeah, to answer your question, yeah, for sure, to put shows on in the south. A lot of amazing fighters like Will Fleury, Patrick Lahan, Peter Quealy, all come from this area. So very proud to be putting shows on down here, and it's kind of we're friendly with all the gyms around this kind of area. MMA Cork, SBG Cork, obviously Team Rhino Kilkenny, Team Rhino Waterford. So it's easier to get shows on down here.
Yeah, it's always good for the lesser counties to have shows as well, you know yourself.
We'll kick you out of the stream there now if you're not careful. A bit of a light-hearted question. How nervous are you when you're in the Talbot in Clonmel that someone hits that chandelier hanging over the cage?
The test was, I'm about 6'5", so the test is if I can jump up and do a flying knee, then I think we're okay. So like, it's all well and good, like. Yeah. It's definitely. I don't want anyone doing a kind of a big glass double and throwing someone straight into it, like. But sure, look, nothing major so far.
Now, on the cage, one of the big selling points is that you have a full-sized professional cage. Was there a reason why you decided that you'd go with the big one rather than, you see a lot of promotions that will have a smaller one?
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken to a lot of guys, and I suppose the 7-meter cage, you take 2 steps in, like, look, not derogating like people that use a 7-meter cage, but I think it's definitely, I think there's actually a higher knockout percentage in the smaller cages. There's more action because you're just closer to each other most of the time. The bigger cage is actually, there's a lower knockout percentage across whatever 1,000 fights, but yeah, it is a spectacle, and we have the outer platform as well for bigger venues, but yeah, it's just kind of, the best that we can offer, and I think it does create a bit more of a spectacle. And yeah, it looks good in any venue. Obviously, the bigger venue in the hub, we took out the outer platform. In the Talbot, we kind of keep it just 9-meter without the outer platform. But yeah, I think it looks better. But I suppose that's down to the viewer. Like, what do you think, Andy?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I was lucky enough to be down there in Kilkenny for, it was the 4th show. I can't remember which show it was now. It was the one where it kind of got changed last minute, and you did a great job of dealing with that venue change, which I'm sure was a stressful week.
Yeah, some things will remain undisclosed.
Fair enough, but no, I thought it was great. one thing that really strikes me when I hear you speak is it sounds like you have a vision or a plan, and like this isn't just right. We'll stick on a show next Saturday and we'll get a fun bunch of fights. It's more, let's hit our markers. Let's have kind of short term, medium term, long term goals. Is that like, do you have specific goals written down for the promotion over, say, like, I don't know, whether it's a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year plan type thing?
Yeah, I certainly do. Like, the goal for this year is to get a big pro fight on and really sell it out and get like kind of cut our teeth on sort of like getting our name out there for kind of being able to give the return for the fighters that deserve it so much as professionals. That's the first one, is to just get a really kind of like a big fight feel pro fight on this year. And then the medium term goal, I think, for any promotion is to get a TV deal. Like, really, that's kind of like the stamp of approval if a television company, or it realistically streaming, probably by the time we're getting our deal, it's a stamp of approval for any promotion to get that television company to invest in you and to kind of like give that vote of confidence that you've proven yourself, in a sense. It's almost like getting signed to a major organization like Bellator or UFC for a fighter. And yeah, the long-term goal is just to build characters, get more. The three things would be, I suppose, grassroots participation in the sport, giving opportunities to professional fighters, getting them world titles and what it is that they want. And the third one, and one of the most important things we all know about prize fighting, is getting fighters paid the amount of money that they deserve. That's the sort of the big three.
Yeah, and I think, look, a lot of what you're describing is also just emotional involvement, like for people to buy into the product. Well, you do have a fight or a bunch of fights coming up, so let's chat about the upcoming card. And I might get you to kind of put your promoter's hat on and sell us this card. What are the fights that we should be looking out for? So we've obviously got Brian Manning. It's an all amateur card. We've Brian Manning from MMA Cork and Matthew O'Rourke from Myello Martial Arts, formerly Team Rhino Kilkenny, in the main event. But there's a whole heap of other ones. The one that was sticking out to me was Pora Keller. Ian and I were cage side at the Nationals for Pora Keller versus Trevor McKengo, and it was a dogfight. It was an absolute scrap, and I see he's going in here against Brian Draper. So anytime there's two heavyweights throwing in 4-ounce gloves or tiny gloves, I'm always interested. So which of the fights that we should be kind of looking out for most? Sell us this card here, Niall.
Sell me this pen. That's what I'm saying. To be honest, I think that the number one fight on the card is the main event. Brian is massively popular in Cork. He brought an army with him to Premier FC 2 last year and got fight of the night against Chris McCarthy. He was very unlucky not to get the decision that day. It was so close, but he did drop Chris. Chris got back up and fought through it and showed his own great determination. He's actually signed to Karate Combat now. But yeah, Matthew O'Rourke from Myello Martial Arts is an absolute character. He's a coach in the gym, and when he switches it on, he goes into killer mode. Matty got a gruesome knockout last year on Premier FC 4. It was one of the knockouts of the year. Shout out to Raz from Everything MMA Era. He posted it. It kind of went a little bit viral on Instagram. And yeah, Brian doesn't really take a step back. And Matty's not one to sort of shy away from a dogfight either. And I think that one, if it goes the distance, is going to be a surprise to me. And then, as you say, Brian Draper moving down the card. He'll be taking on Padraig Kelleher of MMA Cork. He's going down to Padraig's hometown to take on the hometown guy. And I think that one's going to take place on the feet as well. Brian obviously being a very accomplished boxer. And another one that I don't think is going to go the distance.
Yeah, and I see Kai O'Brien versus Nathan Dunphy. Kai is a guy, I think he lost to Richie Smullen, Kieran Smullen, Richie Smullen's brother at Air FC. But while it lasted, I think it was a first round TKO in the end, but while it lasted on the feet, they were throwing heavy leather in the opening exchanges. So I know he's probably very early in his amateur career still, but I was impressed from what I saw, albeit he got finished in that fight, but it was interesting to watch while it was on the feet. Yeah, for sure. It's great to have an SBG Cork fighter on the card, and yeah, Kia coaches the striking in SBG Cork as well, so he's not one to shy away from a dogfight as well. So I'm really, really looking forward to that one. That's our co-main. So yeah, for certain, definitely looking forward to that one as well, Andy. And how can people watch this card? Is it possible to stream it? Yeah. So the stream is available. Same page as your ticket page. Basically, it's available for €15.
through Strictly Martial Arts, so they're a great streaming provider for us. And yeah, the live stream is available. Link is in our bio, or you can get it from any fighter as well.
Brilliant. And then if someone purchased it through a fighter, will that help the fighter, or does it really matter?
Yeah, every single fighter on all of our cards gets 10% commission off of each sale. So it's
amazing.
Yeah. Every fighter. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's helping out the fighter, and it encourages them to kind of get out and kind of tell the story of their fight as well, and get guys to kind of buy into it.
I suppose it's an incentive, a nice little incentive to join the show and fight on a Premier FC card too.
There we go.
And so July, I'm assuming, have any fights been made for that one yet or no?
It's this close to being finalized. Probably one of, if not the highest level amateur fight you can probably get in the country. So that's almost finalized for that. And there's talks of another professional fight, but I to be honest, I don't think it'll come together. But yeah, there's a couple of, there'll be a lot of Clonmel fighters on that one, obviously, and we'll hopefully get some high level AMI fights. And then later on, we've got another Dublin show, hopefully in October.
I know from speaking with you, we're not going to try and go into specific fights or anything we've talked about that you'd like, but are there fighters out there on the Irish scene, whether they be amateur or pro, that you're that you would like to have on Premier FC shows, just in general?
Oh, of course. Like, yeah, there's definitely, I suppose everyone gravitates towards certain fighters, and I'd definitely be, there's certain pros, that early level pros I'd like to get on soon, and there's high level amateurs. Max Lally is one. I think he's really got everything going for him to be a high level professional fighter, and I see him going a long way. There's the Sheriff, Owen Sheridan. I think he's an absolute character. He's someone that I'd really love to have on. We've been speaking to him as well. He was
supposed to fight, right, on a previous show.
Yeah. There was he was originally scheduled, I believe, for Premier FC 2. I believe he injured his shoulder, I think, is injured at the moment. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think he had to get surgery and everything. He's kind of on the rehab train now.
Yeah. That's I think he's kind of back coaching and training and everything as well. He was originally scheduled for our last summer show. There was a couple of opponents, a lot of changes, and a guy who couldn't get medically cleared towards the end, so we had to pull the plug on that one, unfortunately. But yeah, we definitely want to get it on this time, and 100% have him filling out a show in Dublin.
Brilliant. Any other names? Any other names while we're here? Putting you on the spot.
Yeah. Yeah, put me on the spot. Let me just think. I can't think of any off the top of my head. Those are ones that we're kind of speaking to right now. But there's a couple of others. There's a lot of talented fighters in the country that will get on in the future anyway. I can't. I draw
Sorry,
you pushed an envelope there, Andy.
Push me too far.
Thanks for spending the time with us today. And it's great that you guys are putting on shows. I think it's important that we have shows down in the Republic. I know it's not easy. You are doing things the right way. You're giving back to the fighters, so you're ticking off all the boxes, and we are delighted to have you on just so you could chat about the promotion. And we wish you all the success in the world. What you're doing is great, bringing shows down to the southeast and the southwest along with Dublin. You're really spreading yourselves out. It's been a great start, and I guess for me, and I guess with the two lads as well, we just wish you guys continued success with the show, and we look forward to watching it on April 16th and the other ones that you have planned later on in the year.
Thank you very much, Ian. It's been an absolute pleasure being on, and I'd be a big fan of the Auld Triangle podcast. I kind of watch it every week, so thank you so much for the support, and thank you for covering the scene as well at the kind of the grassroots level. I suppose we're all kind of coming together and trying to do the best we can for the fighters, and you're huge contributors to the scene. So see you guys around, and talk soon.
Thanks for the kind words, and just so everyone remembers, go to Premier FC's Instagram page, click the link in the bio and buy it. Support local MMA, support Irish MMA. It's good for everyone. So long may it continue, and may the show continue to grow.
Thank you very much.
And we're back, and that wraps us up for episode 29 of the Auld Triangle. A pleasure as always to talk all things Irish MMA with Andy and with Caoilte. Thank you very much to Alexander O'Sullivan, and thanks very much to Niall Sunderland for speaking with us and taking the time. It was 2 great interviews that I really enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed them as well. If you like what you heard, obviously hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'll let you in a second, Andy. Follow us on all social media platforms as well. Give us a 5-star rating on Spotify. All of that helps. Hit the like button on the SevereMMA YouTube channel. It helps us with the algorithm. Andy?
I was just going to say just a few housekeeping notes that we didn't go into. Just that Carl Morris, if anyone's unaware, Carl Morris' fight coming up has been postponed. He will be fighting later, still against Alex Polizzi. Dean Barry versus Adam Shelley is unfortunately off the Cage Warriors Dublin card. It looks like Cage Warriors are looking to keep Adam Shelley on there. Not going to go into that one further. Morgan Charrier, not Irish, but he's been added to the Dublin card, which is a big deal for the Dublin card itself. He's a massive following. It adds to the card. It adds to the hype around it and the following that he brings. So we've seen Hughes versus Charrier before, where there's been crazy fans showing up, going, tit for tat on balconies, and that'll hopefully make it an even better night coming up in Dublin in a couple of weeks. And we will break all that down on our next episode.
We absolutely, and we will be going hammer and tongue for Cage Warriors Dublin for the next one. We're hoping to line up a pretty good show without giving too much away. Have a pretty good guest on, and maybe another one after that as well. We're looking forward. We're excited to recording that already. We're excited for you guys to hear it. Enjoy episode 29. We'll see you the next time. Cage Warriors Dublin preview and the rest of all the news in Irish mixed martial arts. Take care. Look after yourselves. Caoilte, see us out.
Slán go fóill.